That's not the professional word, but... All right. Welcome to the Damaged Goods Podcast. I am your hostess, Jess Robert. And by my side, like always, for richer or poorer, till death do us part, is recording artist Ill Vibe.
You said always, like maybe that's not a good thing. Like I was always.
Like always. This is our 12th episode.
Yeah, we're getting big.
And I think this is your first dry episode, is it not?
I think it might be. Yeah, I'm not drinking today. That's good though.
Yeah, I think
I've been drinking too much since I came off the road. Any listener or viewer in particular knows that already. So yeah, today I'll be smoking. So if that's as dry as I get, it's not so bad.
Yeah, that's true. Big thanks, as always, to lyricvids.com.
They're the worst.
Those guys. The web's #1 lyric video animation company. We have an awesome guest today. Not only did she used to be my coworker at the costume store that I've mentioned a few times on this podcast, but we're also very good friends and neighbors. She lives just down the street from us, which sometimes feels like next door to me because it's like I feel like I'm just like there in a second. If you guys are like, "Hey, do you want to come over?" It's like it's so fast. So
Especially in the scheme of Toronto. It's
I'm essentially like Wilson from like Home Improvement. You know what I mean?
Hey there, neighbor.
Like,
I like it.
yeah.
Hot Wilson.
That's a good Halloween costume idea. Just like sexy lingerie, but with the fence.
Yeah.
That's so obscure. I love it.
So Shayla has recently joined the self-employment world.
I'm
What?
transitioning in, but yeah, it's so close I can taste it.
Yes. And so this is going to be a more like specific topic podcast than we usually have. Usually we kind of go all over the place. But this one we're going to be talking a lot about self-employment, entrepreneurship, and all the things that come along with that. So...
We've kind of touched on that stuff a little bit throughout because obviously it's super important to us. So we talked about when we got close to my anniversary of quitting my job, I talked about it.
That's right.
We've talked about even just a little bit behind the scenes about how we are lyricvids.com and like kind of all the stuff that goes along with that. Yeah. Even joking last week about maybe deleting files, which we didn't do. It turns out.
Yeah. So if anyone was listening to that, we figured it out.
We saved the files.
Actually, you know what? Let's do a quick shout out because it is really cool. I looked on YouTube for how you can restore files that you've accidentally deleted from SD cards, and there's a program called Rakuva. It's completely free.
Shout out to Rakuva.
and it found I only needed 8 files. It was just a small amount of files, but it found 900 files on the SD card. So it's obviously works very well. So if you ever are in a pickle, Rakuva. We are not sponsored by Rakuva. This is a true thing that happened.
I might list this episode brought by lyricvids.com/Rakuva.
Yeah, really. They deserve it. They deserve it.
The only reason I mention that is because it's really stressful being self-employed that at any given moment you make one bad decision and there's no insurance policy. Like you are the insurance policy and you made the mistake. And so
you're the top, like you're the general manager.
Yeah, you're at the bottom and the top, right? So
yeah, you can't be like, sorry, there's nothing I can do. It's like they know you can do something.
One of my stupid interns and they're just like, I'm pretty sure it was you.
I mean, I guess we could say that we have a gaggle of interns.
I've lied in emails before, but never for this exact reason.
And then you guys announced on your podcast and that lies down.
Yeah. Oh, crap. So this is going to be a little bit of a different format for us because usually we have a lot of questions and topics kind of prepared for our guest, but this time Shayla's got some questions.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're close friends anyway, so when I was thinking about moving into this space, I'm like, oh, I should, I've got so many questions for you guys, and I was thinking it seems like a waste for me to sit down and ask you 5 million questions and not. I wanted to make to write an article, and I will anyway, so do you want to make it a podcast? And I think I asked Anthony, right, or is it okay?
Yeah, of course.
I should call you Ill Vibe.
No, either way. No, Anthony's fine. Yeah.
I asked you right as soon as you were back on tour and you had just broken your rib and you were just like, yeah, great idea. I'm like, oh, he doesn't like the idea. And then
no, he was really excited about it.
This is my favorite stuff.
Yeah, pretty much with every conversation we've ever had at your place or at our place, we're always just like, oh, that would have been a great podcast. Like,
totally.
So as soon as
you will be on many more times in the future and to talk about other stuff because I want to get your opinion on so many other things that aren't business related, but we'll do that again.
Yeah. That'll be especially because this is not going to be, I feel like it's going to be me asking a lot of questions.
No, it's cool.
Then, I can take as many bathroom breaks as I want because I'm going to ask you guys a question. Then
yeah, that's fun.
Tail on out of here.
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah,
and also we'll find a way to link to the article too, which is cool because if you're listening going, hey, this is badass, I'm into this kind of business talk, then you've kind of written something based on it. So that's kind of fun too. I like it. I like it a lot.
I do want to start interviewing more like independent people and so small businesses and that sort of thing anyway.
Cool.
So.
Very cool.
So, I mean, I guess getting started into it, I came to you guys because you were already in this field and you're kind of my easy go-to mentors for it. Starting into this, when you guys were moving from, I guess, traditional employment to working for yourselves, did you guys have mentors that you could count on to ask questions or to guide you, or were you figuring things out very much on your own?
We did it. I mean, we moved into self-employment largely me first, and then you kind of similarly later when we were together.
Yeah. So I had you to answer that question.
Yeah, that's right.
But who
you did have me around to kind of like talk through it and stuff. For me, it was largely about I was really unhappy where I was at my day job. I'm not good at I'm great at teamwork. I'm not great at like the ladder structure of like a corporate system. I was never happy in that environment. And so I hit a breaking point and quit my job out of desperation. And then it was like trying to keep my head above water. So I thought, hey, I'll make videos. I'll just stay up until 5 a.m. sending emails so that eventually enough people buy music videos from me that I can stay afloat. So it was really just panic and like, I'll just work really hard to stay afloat. I figure I don't need that much money to survive. I was single at the time. There was no Jessica yet. We don't have any kids. There was no Callie. Yeah. So I was just like, I don't need to sell that many videos to stay afloat. And I sold enough videos in the first month that it was clear I'd made the right call. That there was enough of a need for that thing that I was going to be fine for at least the foreseeable future. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like you're pretty like lone wolf with a lot of things in life, including like music related stuff and all that stuff where it's like you don't necessarily need that person that you're kind of following that's doing it. You see something like either online or whatever that you think would be a good move. And
like in the music business, I've had a lot of mentors because there's no like, you can't just follow your gut in the entertainment business. Not everything is just based on instinct. You have to know how to navigate certain things. These are the doorways that are open. Business is a little bit more instinctual. It's like, how do we reach people in an effective way to properly communicate a thing we do that we know they need already? That's almost more mathematical. And I felt that we could do that equation, or I could, and then later that we could.
Well, I see you seem like kind of a leap of faith person anyway.
What else are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I feel like Jess went the more usual way, which I feel like is you work full time and then you get sort of a second job where you're working this, and then
that's what I did too.
The ratios change.
That's what I did too.
Yeah.
Because when I had my day job was in the ad business, and my bosses used to call me in and they say, it just feels like your head's elsewhere. And yeah, it was partly my rapping and stuff, but it was also that on the weekends I was shooting 3 music videos in a weekend and editing on my lunch break on my work computer. And so they were just like, no one's ever done that. We've never seen anybody on their lunch break editing music videos. We feel like that means you're not working hard. You know what I mean? Yeah. And even though I had the highest sales reps of all the ad execs and I had the highest reaching of my goals, it just feels weird to them when you've got something bigger going on over there. You know what I mean? It never sat right. And I think that's part of the reason that I never really fit in that environment. Because I'd be open about it. I'd say, what's the goal? If you give me $1,000 and you say, Illy, I want you to help me plan this marketing for my new business, I will own that so hard. Now or when I worked at an agency, even if I don't care about the business, I'll own it. I'm happy to be a hired gun. But the clients, at least in that world, they want it to be your only thing. You know what I mean?
Life, yeah.
They want it to be your only thing. Because if you have other things, you must not be giving us your all because you have that other stuff going on over there as well. You know what I mean?
Well, I've heard that a lot of people, like if you're getting into consulting, it can be dangerous for you not dangerous. It can be a barrier to you getting other full-time employment because people are intimidated. If you're consulting, that means you can find your own way. If you don't like this job, if we don't,
it is intimidating.
If you don't want to play our game, you can just walk.
Yeah, you have the means to just walk. Yeah. So yeah, totally.
Freelance consulting. I think in certain businesses, there's enough familiarity with it that you'll see quite a bit of freelancing. Like in the ad business is a good example of that. But you're right. I think especially those powerhouses, I worked for a guy named Jeff and for another guy named Sharif and a guy named Mike, these like rich guys who basically own these companies, right? And it ultimately boils down to what does that person think, right? And so those are the people I think who feel weird when you're trying to make it famous. So you work for me, but you're also trying to make it famous. At which point do those two things intersect? And you know what I mean?
Totally. Which I guess they're not wrong.
They're not wrong. I always was trying to get out. And eventually I did, right? One of them was shitty enough, I just quit.
Yeah. And what about your transition, Jess?
Yeah, so I was working for doing editing videos, shooting videos for Lyric Vids for I think about a year before I left the costume store.
We talked about you quitting your job for about a year.
Yeah,
before you did.
so essentially at one point the workload, like we were making so much business from Lyric Vids that the workload got to be too much. Like I found that I couldn't like concentrate at work, and there was just like I'd be stressed at work because there was so much stuff for me to do when I got home. And Anthony was like, "Well, we're at the point now where I either have to hire someone else, or you have to be full time." So basically, it was either we were going to hire someone to replace me, and I probably could have still worked for the company in some small capacity, but I really didn't want that because I really felt like it was like I wanted a piece of something.
Your company, that's
big.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really wanted to own that piece of it and not feel like it was just like half in, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And before, I mean, lyric videos, that seems like kind of, I feel like you get these big idea moments where you know that you want to be in this field, you have a bunch of different skills you can sell, and you're waiting for sort of finding that niche thing that hasn't been tapped that much. Mm-hmm. Before you guys found that, you're both very entrepreneurial. Were there a lot of things, like what sort of things, you seem, especially Anthony, like you were selling just like whatever skills you had, who's looking for it? Was there a lot of different things you were doing very part-time before?
That's a really good question. Yeah, there was. When I first moved to Toronto, I'm from Toronto initially. I moved around the world and came back again, literally, like from Barrie to England, and then eventually landing back in Toronto. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not the best, because back then it was all about trying to get famous as a music artist. Mm-hmm. I still really want that, but I've got a more developed dream, more nuanced dream, right? But back then it was just about getting my name out there as a rapper in Toronto. And so I thought, if I'm not the best rapper in the city, and even if I'm one of them, if they won't give me a chance to be the best rapper in the city, well, how can I reverse engineer that position? You know what I mean? And so I immediately, the one that everybody does, but back then was a little less cliche. We're talking, 12 years ago, was I started throwing events. These shows are very poorly thrown. I can throw a better event that I'm somewhere in the middle of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people will appreciate it because it will be better promoted with a cooler poster. Like, that was pretty easy to do. And then later I kind of took that system and applied it to other things.
So now you're an event planner, yeah.
Yeah. So I said, well, what else can I do better than the gatekeepers in Toronto are doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At one point I tried to throw a festival. Hollapalooza, we did 2 of them. I lost so much money. I lost like $6,000 trying to like launch a festival, because it's like all these are the things that some shady former bass player is doing, and it works. So why can't I be that guy in all of these different ways? And I did the Sodi tour, and later on that got into music videos, and then to lyric videos. And it just kind of
and even in between that, also album covers, logos. You were doing logo design.
I really tried to launch myself as a cartoon animator last year. It just turns out nobody has the budget for that, and that's so often the thing, right? Is I'm trying to find a skill of mine that there's a need for, but not just a need, a perfect value gap between what people are currently paying for it and what I'm willing to do it for. That's really the whole lyric video business is built on. Our lyric video business is built on the notion that before we got into the space, the average lyric video started at $2,500 and went significantly higher than that. And anything lower than that was like a bad karaoke video.
Yeah,
that's a huge value gap.
Yeah,
because for $100 an hour, we can produce that for way less money than that. You know what I mean? And so it's like that's really the thing that I've been doing since day one. Is like, what if it's only $100 to throw a show? Why wouldn't I just be one of Toronto's promoters? And if it's only takes 2 days to make a lyric video and other companies are charging $2,500, it's like pattern recognition almost. You're like looking for these little opportunities.
So you're saying that you tried a bunch, like, okay, you start off with a big skill set and you try a bunch of different things, and then it's kind of counter to, I feel like when people talk about leaving a job to work part-time, it's like, well, you have to have your idea and your business plan, you know what you're going into, but you've done it kind of throwing things at the wall that you like to do and seeing what sticks where, so it's very much leap of faith, but it's part of the process.
I think we should talk about something that's important, because for anyone listening who's not an artist, the connection for them, let's say it's like some just single mom who goes, I don't like my job, I'm good at a bunch of stuff. The reason I tried things in the way I did is because I was a rapper already. I was already pot committed to a thing. So now all these other things are going to move the puck forward on that thing, even if they fail. Even if I don't become one of Toronto's best promoters, and for a while I was, I'm still booking more shows for myself. It's like a win-win. When I have a dog in the fight, so as long as there's a fight at all, like I'm happy that this is all happening. But let's pretend that we're Lisa, the single mom, and she's not an artist. It's still about finding a thing that you love to do, and then finding the perfect Venn diagram with, you're like matching it up like Cinderella's slipper with like, what does that fit with? Who would pay for that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what are they paying for that right now? And is that more money? Is that a lot of money to me? Because if it is, that's an area you can get into.
And was it the same? Because I know you went into it more, I think the path that most people who get into self-employment sort of went. Was it the same sort of process for you? I know you worked a lot of different hustles on the side over the years.
Yeah, for sure. And even with like makeup art. So I went to school to be a makeup artist early on when I first moved to Toronto, so like a decade ago. And even with that, it's just like, yes, I wanted to be a special effects makeup artist. I wanted to do like gore for movies and stuff. But unfortunately, if that's a competitive industry and it's hard to get into, it's like if you can't get into that, you're going to want to take the weddings and the proms and the whatever makeup and the independent film makeup. So you're still doing special effects, but it's on like smaller films. And I think that that's kind of the approach that anybody has to take, is that don't think that this is the one thing that I'm going to do and it's the only thing I can do. You know what I mean? You kind of have to go in a direction that can spiral out in any different way. And Lyric Vids is the same thing. It's like we've done, 3D logos for people. We've done edits for
festival
they send
screens.
us footage. Yeah, festival screens where it plays behind them while they're
fashion
performing live.
Fashion show screens.
It's like you have to be open to a lot of different things. Otherwise, you might set yourself up for failure if that one thing doesn't do well.
It's true. If you really, I really think. I said earlier comparing it to math, and you really have to think of it like an equation. Like if you write this down and each piece of the equation is in a little box, I have this skill, I'm good at rapping or makeup, or somebody thinks that they could be an accountant or whatever the skill is. And then you find out how much other businesses pay for it. And if it's a oversaturated business, is everybody in that field, like real estate agent type thing or whatever. And then you do the equation. You don't need to ask Gary Vee or me if you're likely to be successful in that business. It tells you right there that, people don't pay very much for this. Like photography. Someone's like, should I get into photography right now? I don't even have to answer that question. Write it down. Are there a lot of photographers that you know? Yes. Are all of them complaining about not getting paid very well for being a photographer?
Yes.
Yes.
Are many of them working for free?
Is it really easy to be a decent photographer? Yes. And so it's like, that's not a area that's easy to make money in. Producers are always saying to me, how do I make money as a producer? And my answer is, stop trying to. There's no money in. I have a beat machine. All my friends have one. Once everybody has one, the price goes through the floor. I say that with a broken heart for my friends who are producers, but it's not possible to make a living as a producer now.
Or it's very, very, very difficult.
Yeah, it's the 1%. It went from being like the 20% to being the 1%, like photography and like so many things, right?
Yeah. Well, it's actually really encouraging because one of the things that I feel like is like a setback for me when I'm applying to traditional employment is that my skill set, I'm really flexible and I'm very much a jack of all trades. And nobody wants that when you're going for a specific position. But it seems like that's the skill set that really helps you when you're looking for self-employment.
Yeah,
do you find that to be the case?
I agree.
Yeah.
Being multi-talented is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because you need to be bulletproof. You know what I mean? What Jess was stressing, looking for software.
Yeah.
That takes a specific set of skills. Good under pressure. You know what I mean? Decent with technology. You can't be one of these people who's, I'm great at ideas. I'm just not great with technology.
Yeah.
It's like, good luck being an entrepreneur and you're not good with technology. You can't have any holes in your game.
But even, being open to, like, you guys could have very easily gone into photography if that's where the money was. You were flexible enough and skilled enough to do it.
You have to be aware.
No, you went into a different stream because that's where...
I like taking pictures.
Yeah.
I like shooting video more than photos, but not by that much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If photography had been if it had been 15 years earlier when photographers were making a killing, I for sure would have gone into it. And I think in the next 10 years, I'm curious what we are going to get into. We always joke that eventually some AI app is going to put us out of the lyric video business. And that's going to happen eventually. We're either going to develop it first or
I got a programmer for you guys.
There we go. We'll be ready to pivot to another thing that meets all those tick boxes.
Yeah.
We enjoy doing it. We have a pretty good skill set at it. People are willing to pay for it. And then the rest of it, all the marketing aspect is just, well, how do you link with the right people and all that stuff?
Yeah, networking.
When
you guys were starting off in a lot of areas, how do you do the transition from when you're first starting off, you don't have a portfolio, you don't have people saying, how do you transition from portfolio to like making profit? What's kind of the curve on that?
Well, I would say that you're in a bit of a unique position because we essentially Lyric Video started out as selling to Anthony's, I guess, colleagues and fans.
I had existing customers from my music video business.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically what happened is cameras became cheaper. So every band went and bought one. So now the drummer shoots the videos. You know what I mean? Like it's... every group of rappers, one of them went and bought a camera. And so my music video business, I shot 800 music videos, disappeared like fast. Like in 6 months, it went from like shooting all the time to shooting once a week, which is not enough to make a living on. We bought lyricvids.com in the middle of that drop and pivoted into lyric videos, taking kind of what we did in Toronto to the internet, right?
Yeah.
Same sales pitch, which is, hey, for not that much money, we can make something pretty cool. I've got this advertising background and we've got all these cool pieces of software that maybe you don't have. And this is way less money than hiring the big boys is kind of always was our angle.
My point was that he kind of had a little bit of a catalog of people we could go to be like, hey, we're offering this now. Do you want this?
But do you know how I built that catalog? I gave away free videos.
Yeah, so that was portfolio building.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I remember telling my friend Morgan, I'm going to give away 5 videos to 5 key people. And at the end of that, having those 5 people on my resume should be good enough to ask for money for what I do. And I only got to 3 before people were willing to pay me.
Wow. Okay. That was my next question for deciding your rates. And is that something that kind of adjusts over time as you build a name?
Yeah, mine built up slowly. I charged $100 for music videos because I had never shot anything. I had no resume. I was very self-aware. And then I remember going to $199. And then I remember at $300 and $400.
$199.
And then when we stopped making music videos, our lowest price was $600 to $800, depending on what you needed from us.
Which I should note is insanely low for like the industry standard. But that's how we're able to be successful at it. Is that we're, like you said, we're falling into like kind of a middle ground where it's just like the quality is good enough to pay that, but it's still way less than you're going to be paying. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. Like artists starting out need an avenue as well. Like that's kind of the market. I'm thinking about targeting small businesses and like people starting out for marketing because I feel like that's also a less tapped market.
It's less tapped, and which immediately changes the whole conversation.
Yeah.
If we had jumped into lyric videos saying, hey, we're one of the big boy animation studios, we start at 2,500 like everyone else does, the conversations from the day one would have been very different. It would be, how come you don't know everything that our competitor knows? It's like, well, maybe we don't. We just kind of got into this business. So that wasn't us. We were the company for the small guy, because that's a different conversation. Those customers are going, hey, I've never done this before. I can't afford the big one. So what do I get halfway there or whatever? You know, it's like it's just such a more, I find it more pleasant instead of trying to squeeze every dollar and getting the customers then that will hold your feet to the fire over every problem. It's like we find collaborators now, collaborators who want to work with us to get a final video because they know they're paying 20% of what they would be paying if they went to a major agency.
Yeah.
And have you guys always been really upfront? Like you started this business not really having a paved path in front of you. With the early customers, were you very much like, hey, I'm starting out in this, I don't know what I'm doing? Or like, to what degree did you
I think you don't start off braggadociously when you're just starting, but you're also not saying, hey, this is our first lyric video. The reason we did lyric videos was we were starting to do cool title sequences for music videos, and a lyric video is just that forever and just never gets to the music video. I remember that's how we talked about it in the first, like when we went and bought the domain.
The elevator pitch?
Yeah, it's like we've already do it for 12 seconds. We could just do it now for 3 minutes. And I remember thinking that sounds boring, but like that sounds like it's a cool thing that people are doing, and we were right. Lyric videos really took off because that's the other thing we couldn't have accounted for, that Taylor Swift was going to do a lyric video for every single after that, which was going to blow the concept of lyric videos out the water. And same thing with like The Weeknd and so many other artists.
Yeah.
What's his name? The kid from the UK,
the orange hair kid.
Yeah, every song of his is Ed Sheeran. Every song of his is a viral lyric video that goes to 1 billion views. So our clients have been hearing and watching lyric videos, and they want one, and then we email them exactly when they saw one. And so we kind of got lucky on that.
And then I know you guys still continue doing other things on the side. Is that to kind of spread the web? As you said, this may not last forever. Are you kind of keeping your bases loaded so that you can move to something else if and when this drops, or as a security measure?
I don't think we think of it as a security measure.
You guys just like doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's fun to dabble. When you've got the tools don't just do one thing. Like it'd be fun to shoot. Like one thing I really love shooting, both of us are really good at this, is like little bio EPKs where you like tell someone's story in 5 minutes.
That'd be awesome.
So much fun. It's a really sophisticated product, harder to sell than a lyric video, so we don't sell very many of them.
Oh man, you know what?
But they're so much fun to do,
Totally off topic on this, but when I was in journalism school, they talked about people who are likely to die, like the Queen, for example. journalists have stuff ready to go on the Queen, like documentaries that they update every year, or like written pieces.
Interesting.
I'm just saying, guys, if you like that stuff, go for people who are likely to die, and then just be like, I sell it to the Star. I sell it to like major news sources.
Like as soon as they die, you're like, we've got this fully
like I
produced
can have
piece
this to
about
you
him.
so you can print it tomorrow morning before anyone else has anything good
That's
ready.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, very much a thing.
I do want to shoot a documentary. We talk about that all the
me too.
time, and that it's just one of the many things on the list that it's just like there's never any time for. But I think within the next like 2 or 3 years, I'll start getting it together.
The other thing is the concept of, like through the internet, you can run a number of different things, entities at the same time. Yeah. And if one thing, we launched a business called Music Video Weddings. Because Jess loves to shoot music videos, and she was open to shooting weddings, and I hate shooting weddings. She enjoys it. And so we started doing it, and we don't shoot a lot of weddings, but those 3 weddings a year or whatever add up to 16 lyric videos. Yeah. And so the fact that we have that other $9 domain, which actually don't even use, we don't even really use the web domain, but let's say we did, even $10 for the web domain, to bring in any additional revenue. And if next week it occurs to us that people are doing this new trend, well, then we'll buy a cool domain to do with that, and we'll launch an entity that is a player in that field. And it doesn't take a lot of extra time. I think there would be a critical mass, right? I wouldn't want like 16 of these things. Yeah. But I'm okay with having 4 or 5 little things, and some of them do, $10,000 a year, and some of them do 100,000. And as long as the time is kind of linked to that, that's cool. I think, and it's fun to be in different spaces.
Well, that's something I bought my first kind of. It's basically just a personal website right now that I'm going to use as a launching pad, but that's an interesting thing that it's worth, once you find an avenue that's worth pursuing, it's worth buying a separate domain and setting up a separate website to very much target that.
It's $10.
Yeah.
Think about, when I talk about value gaps, it's $10 to buy a web domain, and then you can redirect it to wherever.
Oh, it's true. You could actually store it off of your first site.
Yeah, we have all our websites built off of the back of the Ilvi website.
Very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Pro tips.
It's just like for very little money, you can get in a new space. When I was really young, I met a guy named Josh. I can't remember his last name because he's Josh Say
But he changed your life.
Josh Say La Vie on social media. He did change my life because
Josh Say La Vie. Yeah. That's amazing.
He was like 22, 23 years old, and he was in school, and he was starting this business. And that's when I kind of met him, when he was trying to get into marketing. He wanted to start a marketing agency. And then he's like, hey, have I ever told you about my other company? And I was like, what's your other company? He's like, at lunch, let's go. And he takes me in his car, and we go to this warehouse. He runs, I'm gonna mess this up now, but it's like rccarsinternational.com, and they ship 100 adult priced RC cars a month. We make like $6,000 a month from this like RC car website. He has
what are those like
remote control cars, but for adults, like really good ones.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. And so he had an employee. There was like this Mexican guy down at the warehouse, and this is his sole employee. And this guy's in university. Yeah. And he just had an RC car website, and it's just like people have these things, and you don't. Where does this guy make his money? Nobody knows. But he has this RC car warehouse and a single employee, and there's enough people online who buy RC cars that it's worthwhile for him to have a warehouse and a guy. And if it ever stops being worth it, I bet Josh got out of that space. And
then do you think it's worth then, when you're setting up these things, like naming, if you were to name a small company, or even like, doesn't even need to be registered necessarily. I don't know the details on that. I haven't looked into it.
You don't need to register. Yeah. I think the domain and the socials is more important.
Yeah, but when naming a company, then it's very much more about naming based on keywords than about something creative. Is that
easy to find?
lyricvids.com.
Yeah.
I just keep saying it, keep promoting on it. But like easy to remember, easy to type in.
The line I always say is you want to make it so you can like see it from space. It's like whatever the thing is, easy to understand. From a distance, you can easily digest what's happening over here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Can I tell you one of Anthony's least favorite things that people do is they make up initials for a company that no one's ever heard of.
JPQ.
They'll be like JPQ Industries, and it'll be like no one knows what that is.
Yeah, there's nothing to get emotional about. There's no thing to like about the name. It's all cold hard. It's a code you'll never understand unless you go ask somebody.
Information about
And in the music business, there's a lot of that. Like we're the PQL boys, and it's like no one knows what those letters mean, bro. It'd be way better if you were like the Player Quality Life Boys or whatever. Yeah. Now those are 3 words I can fall in love with, and I have feelings about those words.
Or even, I feel like even using a name, like if I'm just like Shayla Limited, everyone's like, what the heck is that? What does that do?
I call it a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Because it's no problem. No one's going to be like, ugh, Shayla. But it's a missed opportunity, because if you named it something else, they'd be like, oh, there's something about this company. And it's like, now you got a bunch of business just off a good name.
Well, that's what I often think about that. The costume shop we worked at, I'm always very frustrated because it's a name. And I'm like, why wouldn't you call it Costumes Toronto or something like that?
Yeah.
It would advertise itself. People would say it. Now it's
or
like...
even just add the word costumes to the end of the title. So it's the name plus costumes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
It's just such a waste.
In their particular case, the name is so old, I think
that's different.
it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you were launching any kind of new company.
Do you ever watch the show The Prophet? Have you ever seen that?
Mm-mm.
It's basically this
like
guy. Yeah, you'd like it. It's it's a little bit like Hollywoody. Like they do some like
it's a little candy.
reality show stuff in it that's kind of like eye rolly. But it's basically a guy who comes in and he's just like a business guru and is like really smart and stuff. And he'll come into a business that's kind of failing or maybe in a bunch of debt or whatever. And he'll give them not only a big loan or whatever to help get them out of trouble, but then he'll also be like, he'll really look at their business and be like, okay, why are you doing this? Like, why? They're like, well, we've always been doing it. And he'll be like, okay, well, we're going to stop that now. Like, you know what I mean? And he kind of like restructures the whole business. And then he ends up making himself his loan back that he gave them. And then he makes like a bunch extra money because he's like an investor now. But yeah, it's a really good show where he's just like, why did I bring that up? Oh yeah, just because he would look at the name of the costume store and be like, maybe add costumes to that so people know what it is.
And he would close the department that isn't making money. And he's like, all those things,
all
right?
the little things.
Yeah, and those are the things. And honestly, like bringing it back to useful conversation for the listener, so you're not talking in code. It's you make every decision you're making. Let's say you have like a whiteboard and you're like, so the first thing is the name. Second thing is what it does. Third thing is what the socials are, maybe. The fourth thing is like, what is there a logo or a word mark? Each one of those is an opportunity for for people to like that thing. Mm-hmm. That's why focus groups exist. That's why you should draw 3 logos and show all of your friends. And if they all say they like the one with the panda, well, there's something about the one with the panda. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
it's engaging.
It's an opportunity. Now you have maybe used the logo opportunity to engage people. So when you're doing the rest of the things, it works. And same thing, well, the logo works, but they click through the website. That's a big opportunity. If they get there and it's confusing, you know what I mean? That's why it's all about clarity. It's all about looking at it, breaking it down as almost like a step by step. And you want each step to service the overall thesis of the thing. If the overall thesis of the thing is sell lyric videos, well, the name should service that. The logo, you know what our logo is? Lyricvids.com, the world's #1 animated lyric video company. It's the social should serve that. All you see on all the socials is our work and how you could buy a lyric video from us. Everything serves the thesis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And anything that doesn't is a distraction. And just once in a while, it's worth distracting because it's funny. So we'll post a funny thing or something, and it's worth it. But if you do that too much, then your socials become not about the thesis, which is selling lyric videos.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, it's very important, I feel like, with websites to do an immediate call to action, which to yours would be, watch the stuff we've done, and here's how to buy one.
Totally.
And like, here's how much they cost, and all the information you could possibly need.
It really does depend on the type of company that you have too, because I would argue that there is certain companies whose social media should just be fun. You know what I mean? Like it should just be like all the fun things.
That's why I say servicing the thesis. It's why you see for a lot of big artists, their Facebook page is just sharing memes because ultimately all they really want is eyes on the page.
They want to also seem like a normal person. Like I'm just like you guys. So
no, I think that's it, but it's largely about eyes on the page because the algorithm services eyes on the page. So when the album comes out, there's as many people have been looking at the page. So in those cases, it's all jokes, and it should be all jokes so that there's a lot of eyes on the page. You know what I mean? But ultimately, you need to decide on, are you that kind of company? I don't think Lyric Vids is that kind of company.
No, I don't think so.
And if you sell cupcakes, I don't think you are either.
You guys make content. You don't need to do that.
Exactly. We make content, so why not show the content?
But let's say Shayla wanted to start a cupcake company.
Yeah.
I would say
you can't taste the cupcakes through Instagram.
No, everything should service the fact that she is the master of cupcakes. She's the best person at cupcakes that you've ever seen on the internet. And so everything should be about cupcake tricks and cupcake hacks and cupcake recipes,
cupcake porn,
and cupcake incredible photography. It's how could this be this great a photo of a cupcake?
Yeah.
But as long as you go off of what are we trying to do? Does everything one line link back to that on the idea tree? Then you're straight.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
I say you know a lot. I'm really trying to stop saying that.
You know?
No,
I mean.
Okay, I'm working on that.
Going back to rates, the first month that you guys were doing lyric videos, how did you decide the rates off the bat for those videos? Did you like build it based on what?
Ooh, that's a really good question. How did we do that?
Honestly, I just think it was kind of deciding what because you're an artist as well. It's like, what would you pay for this just for like an extra piece of, because it's not a music video. It's an extra piece of promotional material that you're going to use to promote your music.
Yeah.
What would you pay for it? And what would be reasonable if you also, had a day job and whatever else? You weren't necessarily like a ballin', superstar.
So that's the first piece of information we considered.
Yeah.
The second for sure is how long does it take us to do one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because we streamlined the workflow on lyric videos. We just basically created the way. Have you ever seen the movie The Founder with Kevin Costner about starting McDonald's?
I have not.
It's a great movie. You would really, really love it. Even for people who haven't seen the movie, there's an aspect of the movie where you really learn that what McDonald's is great at is not making hamburgers, but they created a workflow of making hamburgers that makes them faster than anyone had ever made them before. You know what I mean?
So instead of raising prices, they lowered costs.
Exactly.
Basically.
That's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of advance work pre-doing lyric videos so that we've got all the legwork, all the heavy lifting is done. We just need to lay the skins on top of them. So we essentially brought the time down so far that we could produce a lyric video at 10% of the cost of our competitors as a starting price. And then to be transparent, we built up from there. Once people started buying those, we had a standard and a plus, basically $200 for a video and then $300. And then I remember everybody bought the plus because it was not that much more.
Yeah, it's not much.
And I'm like, oh, so we could have done maybe more than that. And then so we just launched the platinum at $400, and now most people buy that. And then at a certain point, Jess convinced me, and at first I was pretty skeptical that we could launch something higher than the platinum, because clients are even at the platinum. We get a lot of like, well, this is almost as much as a music video. It's like almost as much as it would be to hire their local video guy. But Jess started selling to bigger labels, bigger artists, and we launched something called the Infinity, which is the sky's the limit, basically. How much of our time do you want to buy?
Yeah.
If every frame you want to be mind-blowing, like a crazy Disney super show, we could do that. It would take her a month, which is this much money, versus the normal, which is 2 days.
And you guys break it down by, like, I've seen the way you do it. It's like per verse or something like that. Like you break it into how long it's going to take.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and did you know to do that off the bat, or is that a learning on the go?
We did it right away, but we just created it based on, like, we needed some kind of measurement tool. Doing it by minute is weird, because some songs are all raps and some songs are just like chants, And
even still, it's kind of funny
not
sometimes
perfect.
when a really fast rapper gives us a song. Sometimes one verse of a fast rapping song is as much as an entire song of someone else's song.
Yeah.
But we still charge the same thing just to keep it all streamlined. So if you have a fast rapping song, come to us and you'll get a good value.
Good value.
We're getting good value for sure for our time. But I think so. That's how we built it. And then. I just had a brain fart. I can't remember what we were talking about. Sorry. My bad. I'm smoking all this bomb-ass weed.
What were we talking
how we came to the tiered level pricing.
The rates. Yeah, the rates.
Yeah, so can't remember.
That's okay. My next thing going into...
I got some new weed. It's Blue Dream. It's very good. I'm stoned.
One thing that I know I'm going to have to like boost my skills in that I shouldn't be announcing, but I want advice on is negotiating rates and fees. I feel like you guys must get a lot of people arguing or like giving you a hard time.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's
any advice
and that cued my memory too, by the way.
Yeah.
But go.
We have the freedom where we can offer, deals too, just because we're working for ourselves. So we kind of like, again, if it was somebody who had way more lyrics in their song than they usually do, we might not be as lenient with giving them, say, 10% off or 15% off. But if somebody who had a shorter song and we're like, the song's pretty short, it's 2 verses, but could I maybe have it for this much, we'll often give them that deal or negotiate.
Yeah, we're flexible. We try to be transparent like that.
Yeah, totally.
But any advice on beefing up? I feel like I might be targeting, for example, contractors as one, and I'm like, these are people who know the hustle. I need to know how to be firm against that.
So if you didn't want to give a discount,
well, I mean, like, just I feel like. Whatever. I feel like I could be wheedled down in a way, as I often am in many things in life involving money.
Yes, and I feel the same way too. And Anthony, this is why me and Anthony are a good team, because it's like I think that I'm not necessarily better at customer service, but I have that customer service background where it's like I'm always trying to please the customer and trying to, use all the nice words that'll keep them happy and keep them whatever. And then Anthony is the one who kind of can be the bad cop when we need to be like, hey, unfortunately for this thing that you've asked us for, we do need to charge extra, blah, 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 and whatever.
And we've had to, because there are a lot of special circumstances that like we'd never envisioned coming up.
Yeah.
People who send us lyrics where more than half the lyrics are wrong. What do you do when it's at what point does it cost more money for us to fix your writing? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. These are things that come up. You know what I mean? We're in a pretty different situation from you. For us, it was more about teaching our customers about a brand new business that they didn't know existed until we came along.
So there's no precedent.
People they don't buy music videos online. And so they often are like, at a loss of like, how much input do I have? How does this work? Do you send me stuff? What do I see at what points? They have no idea. And they've maybe never bought, some of them have never bought something this expensive that isn't just like an item, like ordering an Xbox game
like
or
a physical
something.
Thing, yeah.
You know? And so we are like educating them while we're selling to them. And so it needed to be very clear
for sure.
what our pricing was, so they could almost do the math themselves before they emailed us. So then we're just confirming the price.
One thing that I find that we do is if we ever have a conflict with a customer where they're like, either, you know, I don't like this color, or I don't like, you know, this, or all their lyrics were incorrect or something, where we're at a position where we need to charge more money, we always give them two options. We give them the one that doesn't cost any extra money.
Yes.
We'll say we can leave the lyrics as you provided them. We can leave them as is. Maybe instead of this error at the end, we'll just add your logo over top of it or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We'll give them a free option, and then we'll give them a second option that it's like, if you want to go all out and have everything perfect and have this changed and this changed, that will take us a little bit of time. So this is what that cost will be. So I find that's helpful sometimes too, because then they always have the option to pick the no extra money.
For us, the key has always been, and for me before even the music video days to now, is we're here to do this. This is not a scam.
Yeah.
So if you're done spending money, we're done taking the money, but we can't spend any more time on it. Yeah. And so that's how I've always approached everything. It's like time is money, and you get everything you pay for. We've never not delivered for a single client. Between music videos and lyric videos, we're at like 1,300 people. We've never not delivered. But my time is my money. And to tie it back to what you were saying about having to put your foot down about things, that is the rule.
Yeah.
Once you have all the data about the situation, like what the atmosphere is, like who are the other players, how much do they pay for this in the past, have they ever done this before, what percentage of them have done this how many times, all that data about the environment around the business that you want to get into, you're going to have a sense of what is high and low to them. Mm-hmm. I think to set your price, you ultimately have to know what would make them be like, sheesh, that's a lot of money, and to be like, wow, that's pretty low. Because then now you know the psychology of the two ends, and maybe you want to be 70% up. Mm-hmm. That's the place to be. So you don't trigger any alarms of like, wow, that's quite a lot for this thing that she does, but you're getting everything you can for your worth. And then you work backwards to be like, well, how much time do they get for that package? Mm-hmm. If it's $750 for this, you know, launch your business package, reverse engineer how much time can you put into that and be paid well. You know, for me, I've regularly worked with the number of $50 to $60 per hour on all the prices that I build.
Nice.
And that's not crazy. That's how much most professional people at the ad agencies, all the great graphic designers making $50 an hour.
Especially for if you're working for yourself, because you have to build into that, like you're not working, like you have to take in the ebb and flow into account.
And that doesn't account for the other shit. Yeah. I'm talking working. That doesn't account for the going to pick up the business cards, which took me 6 hours. Mm-hmm. That's all unpaid. That's just you run a business time, you know. Yeah. But I mean on
padding,
on the projects themselves. And if one of my clients, and this happens a lot, they say, that's crazy. That's how much I get a 4K music video for with a red cam, and so I can give you $100. And it's just like, even when we need it, and there were weeks when we need that $100 because I just got back from Europe, and that's pretty recent. People are being very real, but
it's getting too real.
But I'm like, no, man. Because I make the rules in this lyric video business. Mm-hmm. I'm a major player in the lyric video business. And if I accept $25 an hour, that's how much a lyric video is worth.
And we also have the confidence to say like, oh, if you can get it for that price, go get it. You know what I mean? Like, but it's
I say that a lot.
We know that we found a way to do it quickly so that we can make it worth our time. And that a lot of people online, we haven't seen many competitors in our exact
And we stay
lane.
informed. We look.
Like, we check it out.
I stay in touch with, and one popped up last year that was a little bit more money than us. They're the closest to our price I've ever seen. And I just pay attention. And so I know when someone says, oh, I could get it for way less than that, then you must have a friend who's amazing at After Effects, and they're going to give you 2 weeks of their time.
Yeah.
Because that's and if you can do that, by the way, you have a great friend. Go get that video.
Also, one thing I learned as far as like having like a backbone and stuff like that and pushing back a little bit with clients or customers is that sometimes they'll use the thing where they'll be like, well, I didn't know that thing or whatever, but it's usually having to do with using more of your time or getting more for what you originally promised them. And it's just like, well, we can't have, you know, terms and conditions with fine print that says literally every little thing that comes up. There's going to be things that come up that neither you or the client prepared for.
Yeah.
That you have to be like, okay, well, now that we're at this spot, here's our options. You know what I mean? And so I always feel like that was one thing I had trouble with. I'm just like, oh yeah, I guess we didn't tell them that if this came up that we would have to do that. But it's just like,
sometimes
how do you do that? How do you tell every client before before you go into an agreement, like all the possible scenarios and what you would, you know what I mean? So you just have to feel confident being like, here, now that we're at this spot, here's your different options, and I'll try my best to help you, and so everyone's happy. You know what I mean?
I like it.
Yeah.
Any rate negotiating horror stories? I feel like you may have had something you brought up the other day you want to talk about.
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on that a little bit already, where just sometimes clients will send us their lyrics and we'll quote them accordingly. So we'll be like, oh, this looks like 2 verses, so this is the price. And then we don't always necessarily listen to the song in advance, because we get requests for quotes all the time. So we can't listen to every song and match it up with the lyrics they sent before they've even sent us any money.
We press play on the song. We
listen to it.
We don't listen to the 4 minute and 17 seconds to find out there's actually a third bridge that you have at the end of the song that no one told us about.
So sometimes
surprises happen.
Yeah, those things happen, and then they'll be like, "Oh, you're kidding? That's going to cost more." And it's like, "Of course it is." But yeah, I think as long as we explain it very clearly,
well, it's on your website. Like,
yeah, exactly, that too.
That's the beauty, is when you list things on your website. These days, it's kind of like there's an accepted contractual agreement, and that's why we have very few issues, because even when someone does make that mistake, they understand the social arrangement of, this is what I told you, this is what you told me. I didn't live up to my end. I didn't provide the right information. So, of course, there's going to be a little additional cost to fix that mistake.
Yeah.
I don't know that relates to everybody's business. You know, if you're in the cupcake business or something else, I don't think it applies as much. If we're talking about setting prices initially and having them feel that that's worth their money and having that be like an easy, positive situation. Yeah, I think it's about having the confidence of knowing that you can look them right in their eye and say, I know you can't accomplish this with your business for less money than this.
Yeah.
If your business, if the goal is to grow your business by 50% and to get into this market and to get your sales over this number, I can't think of any ways or any experts that are going to come in for less than this money. So if you can, I would hire them immediately. But if you cannot, and you think I would bring that value and accomplish this thing that we're doing, then don't not buy it based on the number, because this is great value for. Do you know what I mean? Because if they believe that they can't get that thing done for less money, well, then it just becomes about, can they afford to do it? Yeah. And that's all you need to do. You just need to get them to the goal line. They do the rest, because you never want to be the salesperson who tries to convince them they can afford to do it. It's that if you're planning on hiring someone to grow your business, because obviously these customers of yours are thinking about trying to grow their business or accomplish some business goal. I'm sure they've got 2 or 3 ideas about how to do that. Maybe it's to double their advertising budget. Maybe it's to hire a new marketing director, fire that old lady. Or maybe it's to bring on some kind of expert like you to kind of like do a launch for the summer for them, or whatever the case is. Then the question just becomes, are you less money to get them to the goal? You know what I mean?
And do you guys always charge project-based, or do you ever do hourly-based? I mean, maybe not with this particular business, but with other ones.
Mostly project-based, just because that's the precedent in the
You have
creative
charged
space.
hourly based when you're working for other like directors and
That's
you're
different.
editing their footage and things like that.
Yeah, that's different. That's more like I got hired as like a subcontractor for another director, so he paid me hourly for to help him out with some projects. Fuck that dude. But mostly it's contract based, just because that's the precedent. It's $500 for an album cover, it's $1,000 for a music video, and then the director decides how many hours that is.
Yeah,
and you kind of work backwards. That's why it's on us. And early we would bicker a little bit because Jess would underquote and then over deliver on time, and I'm like, you're making like regular like work
that
pay
was also
right
an
now.
issue of me not knowing the software as well. So
Oh,
like
of
now
course.
I'm way better, and you're still way faster than me. I find that I get like really like neurotic with certain things in our programming, where it's like I'll have to minimize this before working on. Do you know what I mean? I do things like that. Whereas I watch you do it, and you never step backwards. You're always stepping forwards. That's this kind of getting off topic, but it's
all
just like
keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah, totally. And I know some of the shortcuts too, but there's just no way I could ever match your speed. But I definitely got a lot better. And now I feel like it's like worth my time doing these.
Yeah, no, you do.
These
You
videos
you do it in the number of hours that
spending
you
way
should,
too long
for sure.
on them. Yeah,
for sure. Seamless transition into something more fun. Marketing. What is sort of your approach to marketing through or connecting through social media? Like, what platforms do you use for different things?
So we get a lot of our clients from Instagram, And the way we do that is we have an app that will go around like just like liking and interacting with people. So just like usually on music related stuff, it'll
artists.
be like cool or dope or whatever. It'll like talk about their stuff. And then if they comment on that, we can actually jump in and take over for the bot and like respond and interact with them. But then usually from that, yeah, people just add us and they see.
And using hashtags, because on every post we'll post, hashtag New Music Friday is a great hashtag that artists tend to surf because they use the hashtag a lot.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they stumble across us, and we are the best lyric video company on Instagram. So if they're looking at all, and if they're scrolling in that direction,
they'll see that.
And that's the key, right? If you're the cupcake company, I keep going back to that because it's the funny example.
I like the cupcake company.
But if you're trying to launch a new, hairdressing salon in a small town, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
That if someone's looking, so hashtag small town hair,
hashtag
like
updo,
like let's say if it was Welland, like hashtag Welland hair, hashtag Welland hairdresser, hashtag. And if you find, by the way, that there aren't anyone using those ones, you can switch to Niagara. By the way, for people from anywhere else, it's just two regions that are near each other. But the idea being
that's where I'm from.
In
you
Ontario,
can use these hashtags to like anybody who's surfing. I think of it as like passerby traffic.
Yeah.
They're cruising by on the hashtag of Toronto barber or Chicago haircut or whatever. And if you have a cool thing, they might go and stop and be like, who's this guy?
One thing that I feel really good with our company is I really do believe in the product. So I never feel like I'm selling to somebody, you know what I mean? In like the negative kind of snaky way. I always feel like it's just like, hey, did you know this existed? This is a cool thing. And you kind of do a thing that could benefit from this. So let me know. Like it's always very open-ended and just like,
exactly it.
This is what we do. And to be honest, our response rate is like 99.9% positive. Like even if somebody doesn't buy, they're usually like, hey, cool. Thanks for letting me know. We've maybe had one or two people be like, thanks for the spam. But it's just like very rare that we get that.
Yeah.
Very, very rare.
And the key is just to know your customers. So if it's a cupcake place or an accounting place or a business place, it's like, well, yeah, you could hire a young person to go out front and give flyers out for your cupcake place because I don't think
they might not reach anybody.
Well, I'm actually saying
it depends on the medium
for that thing. Yeah. That might actually work because those people will think that's cute or whatever. It's just knowing your customers. That wouldn't work for us. You know?
But I mean, the girl guides send girl guides out to sell. Maybe that's a bad example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, you know what I mean.
All I'm saying is it's about getting inside the head of your customer.
Yeah.
And totally. So like all we say to them is, we know you're trying to get your music out. We know you are. That's every day you wake up. Every day an artist wakes up thinking, how do I get my music out?
Yeah.
And so we just say, this is one of the ways you could do that. Mm-hmm. And keep us in mind. And when you approach it that way, to bring it back to you, I know you're trying to grow your business.
Yeah.
Like, I know every day you wake up trying to grow your business, Mr. Construction guy or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're stressed out about how to do it. I know how to do it. It's like, so now the question just becomes, do you want to hire me? And if the answer is no, no sweat. There are so many businesses. You even have more potential clients than we do. I'm kind of getting excited for you because...
Oh, I've already got I know a couple of people in
the sky's the limit.
Yeah, construction consulting. And it's like, they've been literally getting by on word of mouth. Their business is that good.
Wow.
That they've been getting on. I'm like, what would it do if you had a website?
Yeah.
Give it to me. I will give you a website.
Yeah, you could grow these businesses tenfold.
Yeah, my little icon should be a little amplifier. What's that thing? The
microscope? No, not microscope.
It's
what's the Sherlock Holmes thing?
No, the thing that you speak into. And
megaphone.
Megaphone.
Yeah.
Thank
you know the other thing that will happen if you get into that business is over time you will become an expert about what kinds of businesses make what kinds of money.
Yeah.
And you will also be like, yeah, so we recently got into this space as a side thing, and you can make a ton of money at that because you'll have learned so much. You become an expert at so many different industries at how they can be the most profitable.
Yeah.
That you become like a very scary person in business. Yeah, that's really cool.
Speaking of you talked a lot about information, that sort of data. Do you guys track and use analytics? Like to what degree is that a thing that you guys do?
Like web analytics?
Yeah, like web.
No,
analytics.
we don't. That's an area that my friend.
You seem to have good instincts and rely on that, which is.
Yeah, we will better in the future. The problem with web stuff is there's a lot of upfront cost to properly setting up a website in a way that you can maximize analytics.
I can hook you up, man.
Oh, well, let's talk. Because my friends in the web space have quoted me way too much money to build a proper website. Because our website's really nice looking. In terms of user-friendly, in terms of response, no problem. But we built it using a service called Page Cloud that's very self-managing. Mm-hmm. And it's not set up for analytics and like Google and all of those particular things. So we're currently very data weak, actually.
No, that's one of the things. I'm leaving I'm taking a gap in unemployment, and part of that is to grow skills. I've used analytics for a while, but I'm getting my like Google certification. I'm going to become like a genius at it. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys in a month.
Well, that's really exciting because that's literally the thing that I've been looking for.
Yeah, for sure. Even when sales are a little bit dry and we're looking like, okay, what area do we make the most sales? It's like we don't really have like a database that like shows us that. Do you know what I mean?
No,
like,
but we know.
No, for sure. But it's just like we're going on our what we know and not on actual like,
and we
numbers.
have we work off of spreadsheets, so we're not like running off of like pieces of paper and pencils. Like, like we have spreadsheets that manage like our clients, but. Unfortunately, it's very sales based and social media based. So we have a client base that we sell to and social media to reach new potential customers. And so that when other people say, hey, this is my new lyric video produced by lyricvids.com, a little at lyricvids.com, then their friends who are artists click through and then they buy a lyric video from us. It's kind of like word of mouth through the web, right? Yeah. So right now, that's all of our business. I dream at night. Like I have wet dreams about getting business from Google.
Oh yeah,
like that gets me hard.
But I mean, like even there,
we've never received a single. We've sold hundreds of videos, never one from like someone Googled lyric videos.
We have had the thing, you know, if they message you on your website, like if they email you, it tells you. We've had a few of those.
I still think that comes from socials.
But at the same point, if it's coming from a link on a social media thing, you can set up this thing that gives you a short form link, and if they click that link, the basically the interface that runs that link for you tells you. This many people came to there with this link. So you can see like, oh, this many people came from Instagram, this many from Twitter, this many from Facebook.
Yeah.
YouTube.
But the problem is our URL is lyricvids.com. So I don't think you want to use a shortener on that.
But if you use Bitly, you can customize the end lyrics. So it could just be like bit.ly/lyricvids.com.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm just saying that's one avenue.
No, you're right.
Or you can use Google. If you get set up with Google Analytics, you can do, have you ever seen this thing before where if you look at an actual URL at the top of the bar, it says lyricsvid.com/UTM equals this, and it's got a whole bunch of extra crap at the end?
Yeah.
That's just all marker tags that lets you see.
It looks so gross though.
It does look gross, but for the most part, if you're showing it, like most of the time when you do these things, links become smaller, or they become shorter on a lot of social media things, or they become like you click it, it just says go to lyricsvid.com and you don't see the back end.
Because I've used that stuff for IllVibe before because I often don't have a really cool short URL for this thing that I'm promoting.
Yeah.
So something / like anti-gravity is cool.
Yeah.
But for lyricvids.com, I'm hesitant to be like bit.ly/lyricvids.com.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just because our company is our website.
It is the web. And that's kind of the beauty is like when the artist goes, who do I credit? I go lyricvids.com. Like a lot of the time, I think they think that they're going to say like Anthony. Like no, lyricvids.com. So I want there to be no confusion about where other people can go to get the same thing that you got. You know what I mean?
That's Google Analytics based. Then we'll figure it out.
But once we build it into our website, then we'll be beautiful, right? But that is a thing I think about at night.
You guys are already beautiful. What other marketing or outreach tools do you guys use outside of social media?
We've dabbled in music conferences.
Yeah.
Like what?
We just sponsored New School Rules in Rotterdam. It's a hip hop conference. I've received a lot of growth in my music career by attending there and networking there. And there's hundreds of managers, publicists, artists, all kinds of things. And they approached us for a lyric video about 6 months before this year's event. And I just literally said, instead of sending you the price, how do you feel about you guys printing lyric vids flyers and put them in everybody's artist package? So what was really cool is when I was at the conference, people kept being like, here's my card. Like, how do I get a hold of you? And I'm like, you got your bag?
In your package.
It's in your package. So it was fun to be like part of the event. We didn't sell many videos from it. We got a bunch of inquiries, but I think it's, sometimes for things like that, it's awareness too, right? It's like when they put out their next album in like 4 months or 6 months or 8 months, they're like, who's that lyric video company? And we're pretty...
they'll type into Google and be like, well, it's probably this one.
Yes, we're pretty easy to find.
Another thing we use a lot is just like sourcing out the information of the types of people who'd be interested in our services, whether that's, labels or artists or whatever, is just finding them. I often like listen to playlists and find new artists, and then those are
210 emails today.
Yeah.
Wow.
Based on like Spotify new music playlist. Spotify new music Australia got hit, Ireland,
basically
UK,
finding
Canada,
people
US.
who are currently promoting new music are the exact type of people who would be wanting to buy new ways to promote that music, right?
So one of my other questions was, if I was to ask what a normal day or week or whatever looks like for you guys, I wonder if it has.
I don't know if we have one.
I know that you're project based, so there must be an ebb and flow, but it sounds like you kind of fill in the extra spaces with things like, well, today was an outreach day or like marketing day.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, for sure. We do that. When we're busy, we're not selling. And there's times where we get surfing for so long. I'm like, we haven't had to sell in like 2 months.
Yeah.
It's like it's been so busy. People buy 10 lyric video packages, and before you know it, you're busy for a month straight.
Yeah.
But recently,
I was going to say, can we get real talk?
Yeah.
Yeah, real talk.
Right now we're in like a dip where it's just like we just ran out of all the, you know what I mean, clients who were in word of mouth, so they were telling their friends,
we're
and
in a dip.
then they maybe bought a package of 10 or whatever, and we just finished the 10th one. Everything kind of came to like an at the end, and right now we're in kind of like sales mode just because we ran out of those.
But we sold one right before the lyric videos, right before the podcast started.
We'll be fine. It's just definitely is a thing where
that's
like
how cool this business is. So we've been on red alert for sales for about 36 hours, and we already have one sale. So it can be a pretty quick business because this particular customer is a brand new respondent from one of our outreaches. So it's like we are lucky to also be in a space where we're noticing a lull coming up ahead, and to be honest, we noticed it late this time because I've been traveling so much. When I'm home, we always see it coming a mile away. We look at the spreadsheets, we're like, hey, the white ones are getting shorter and the red ones are getting longer, and red means we finished it, you know? But I was traveling, and there's so much going on with the podcast, and we launched the record label, and it just, our head's been elsewhere. But normally we see it and we can adjust for it. We go, hey, instead of going 5 days of lyric videos and 1 day of outreach a week, let's move to half and half for the next week, and then before we know it, we're busy again. Usually, so we're currently in the middle of the sales swing. So I'm hoping that everything works out in the next couple of days.
This doesn't need to be said to you because I'm sure you know this, but for any listeners out there who are maybe thinking about starting an entrepreneurial life, is that it really is important in 2018 to have those like actual connections with potential clients rather than just sending out mass emails. Because as we know, Gmail made that thing.
Response.
Yeah, Gmail made that thing where it automatically gets filtered into your like other inboxes. So instead of coming into your primary, it just goes into like your advertising inboxes. And no one ever checks those. Some people do.
That's a really great point because we sent 200 emails, but that's not all we did. I also put a bunch of money into our Instagram bot. I also ran promo on all my personal socials so that everybody who follows me personally is thinking about that I do this. I posted the Japanese lyric video on my personal Instagram story.
We emailed past clients we've already worked with, and we're like, hey, what do you have going on now? Like,
I offered 10% off discounts to a bunch of past clients. We do like 12 different things so that hopefully this one gets one. So those 200 emails, we might get 1 to 6 videos sold from that. And that's a small percentage. So you're right. If you're launching a business just off, I'll send emails, that's tough.
So are repeat customers sort of your bread and butter, and new ones less?
I would say it's almost like 50-50.
That's nice.
Really?
Well, only in that we have some. Without saying names, we have some
I'm gonna duck up for
6 video clients. We have some 9 video clients. We have like a 15 video client. And when you add those up, I would say they probably make 40% of our.
Yeah, I would say 40% is more accurate.
I'll say this because Greg in Ottawa bought like 8 videos last year, and those start to add up to being as much as the people who just buy one. The 8 people who just bought one. You know what I mean?
Totally. I just feel like whenever we're looking at our portfolio, it's like new artists we're working with, new artists.
Largely, but for Han Solo has bought probably 7 videos now. Different artists, but all through Han Solo Records.
Yeah, that's true. I mean? Sometimes it's within like the same connection, but a bunch of different artists.
Is always, you know, so it's like we have these clients who even though it's different artists, it's the same person, you know?
Yeah.
One thing I want to try to do, because I really enjoy talking lyric video business, but we've scratched that itch. Let's try to speak you don't have to be even generally, but for example, saying, well, if it's a really unique situation for us, maybe let's say it's a unique situation for us, instead of giving, because I can be like this, I give long answers, 15 minutes about how the lyric video business is very unique, because it's like not very useful for people.
That's true.
You know?
For networking, any advice on that? Like, what do you guys sort of use? I know you're in the industry.
Social media networking or like in-person networking?
In-person networking. And I feel like this would be a better question for Jess because you are so deeply embedded within the industry.
Yeah.
So like what do I use for networking? Or
like for meeting new people? Or is it just like everyone you come across, it's always an opportunity? Or do you particularly seek out ways to meet people in person? Or is in person the best way to do it?
Yeah, I mean, with our particular business, it's done mostly online, and the only time that we do sell in person would be at the conferences, at the music conferences. In which case, yeah, it's like it's kind of in the environment where everybody's networking, everybody's kind of selling something, so it's really easy to be like, hey, this is my thing that I'm selling right now. You know what I mean? But as far as it's tricky because our specific our clientele is very specific. So if I met somebody at a bar, if they were an artist, absolutely. Like, you know, if we go to a karaoke night and there's a guy and he says, "Oh yeah, I'm in a band usually,"
so that
or whatever.
girl who was an awesome singer at karaoke 2 weeks ago. You're
I could be like,
card.
"Hey, do you actually make music?" Because yeah, so that's one way that I do it. But
I just got back from Midem in France. Midem is like the biggest music conference in the world. It's where Diana Ross got her record deal. You know what I mean? It's like it's the spot where people get discovered. So I'm there for my music, but simultaneously when I'm in the VIP, I'm talking to all these people who own labels, and I'm very aware that where the music industry is, they're not there to sign artists. Very few artists are getting signed there, maybe discovered there, and then down the road after some really key moves, they get a deal or something. But what they're there to do is grow their label. The business of their label. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're trying to build distribution deals and publishing deals. That's why they're there. So as an artist, it's not that useful. So that's there's a side lesson here about being super self-aware. I put that business in my back pocket a whole bunch. And I say, I bet you don't have an animator on your team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know how much they cost. And I sell to them that my business is built on the fact that I have so many clients around the world that we do this for, that we can charge just $50 an hour, because that's incredible in that space for if you're talking to a big label about producing high-level stage graphics and things like this, because we do it all the time. We're working 40 hours a week on these for everybody, so you can get it at a reduced rate, almost as if you were like cost sharing me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sure. And so that's kind of the pitch I give them, and they can't say no to that unless they have an animator on their team already, and they don't. Most cases, occasionally they do. It's like, well, that's smart. We only would ever hire you when or if or as needed, only if we love your work, which our work is awesome. So
so I think that the short answer to this is that networking is easy when you put yourself in a social situation where the networking makes sense.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because sometimes, can I tell the business card thing, or maybe you'd be better at telling it, where it's just like, oh, go out into the crowd and hand out 10 of these business cards or whatever. It's like,
I'm not
that's
good at
intimidating.
that.
And like me and Anthony both aren't good at that.
Nobody wants those cards.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So just because that we talk a big talk, you know, when we're talking about our own business, doesn't mean that we have some key to networking that nobody else has. It's like, we're both a little bit awkward with that. I think it's just putting yourself in the right places that it feels very natural, you know what I mean? And it feels like helpful to the person too, you know?
You have to know the thing that you're selling has value to the person you're selling it to.
Yeah.
So I'm never convincing them that animation is cool, or that growing their business is cool, or that having their books in order is cool, or that cupcakes are cool if you sell, you know, or whatever. Like, that's not the sale.
Yeah.
They know that's all. They know those things are good.
Yeah.
The sale is that you're the best supplier of that thing.
Yeah.
And by the way, I love us, so I'm great at just saying we're good at the thing that we love doing.
Yeah, you believe in the product.
That's a pretty easy sale. Hi, my name's Anthony. Me and this person I love are great at the thing that we love to do.
Yeah, and it can help you.
And it can help you, and I bet you've occasionally thought, oh, I could use that thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the DNA of what everybody should take home. That's like the sales pitch is, I'm great at doing the thing I love, and you want someone who does that thing, consider me.
Yeah.
And if that's the conversation every time, there's no reason to be stressed out.
Yeah.
I'm great at the thing I love. Consider me. And it's like, if you're making that pitch constantly, I think you're going to find some people go, she seems confident. we do need that thing.
Yeah.
You know, and just based on timing alone, nobody else is selling to us right now that we feel this good about. Let's give it a shot. Yeah. And so we've had people take risks with us with, you know, big purchases, and they've never bought anything like this.
Yeah, for sure.
So you can really feel that, you know, I think it works, that pitch works, you know?
And then in terms of, we were talking about business cards, you guys set up a URL for each sort of avenue you pursue. Do you guys also have a business card specific to each thing, or is that less useful?
Not really. Like, well, I guess so, because you have Ill Vibe business cards, you have Heavy
I don't have Ill Vibe right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm out of Ill Vibes, and we're almost out of Lyric Vids. But yeah, we have Lyric Vids and Heavy Ox right
sign.
now. Yeah, we have Lyric Vids and Heavy Ox right now.
Lyric Vids, we tried to make we're going to redesign the business card soon, but our original business card did say a bunch of the different things that we worked on. So we had music videos. I think we had like logos, lyric videos. Doesn't it have a bunch of stuff on it?
No. No, we don't, but it doesn't. It says lyricvids.com on the one side. On the other side, it says like lyric video starting at $100.
Doesn't it say like music videos, lyric videos, whatever? Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's something we could think about doing for our next cards, where it's like, almost like all your animation needs rather than just lyric videos, you know?
Yeah.
But
going into working for yourselves, what caught you off guard? What weren't you expecting about this?
That's for you. I'm curious. You did it more recently. I can think of 5 things for you.
Yeah, I guess what I wasn't expecting. This is more personal than it is
I think this is relatable.
Yeah. So what I wasn't expecting was missing people so much.
Oh yeah, if you're
we've talked about this a million times, but it's just like, definitely Anthony is a little bit more of a lone wolf when it comes to stuff like that, where he's happy he doesn't have to work in a work environment, in a traditional work environment.
I miss aspects, but I miss it less than you.
Yeah. Whereas I definitely am just like, I wish I had somewhere to wake up early for and like go to this place, and I have my coffee in my hand and I'm like ready to go. You know what I mean? Like it's
structure. Yeah.
There's something about that feeling that I really miss, and I try things to fabricate it. Like I'll try going to cafes to where, so if I have a selling day, all I need is my laptop for selling. So I'll try going to like a cafe in the morning, and then I have other people who are also working on laptops nearby, and that's kind of fun. But
maybe you should come over if I'm going to be working from home. We can have certain days a week that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
it's it would be fun to do like a weekly like work day where you come over and work in the same space.
I've got a big kitchen.
That would be really fun, actually. And do you know what I talked to Anthony about? This is off topic, but I think I'm getting like less allergic to your cats, and I
noticed that yesterday.
Yeah, I feel like you still give me the meds, so I mean, I'm sure that helps. But I feel like I'm like developing like an immunity, because I feel like every time I go, I'm like a little bit less like sneezy.
One of us.
Yeah. So I think that'd be really fun to do like a weekly or like.
Did we say that you're Katie's sister?
I'm not. We did not. I'm Katie's sister.
Yeah,
she was on episode 3, I want to say, John Mayer Effect.
Yes.
Our friend Katie, you can't see that probably or listen to that or whatever, but Katie, who's on episode 3, your sister, one of our other best friends, we hang out all the time. Just because I know I was listening to a podcast and then you're like related to the previous guest.
Throwback.
Somebody should mention it. That's all.
Yeah.
Yes,
for sure. What sort of background or like soft skills do you think, like aside from the actual talent that you use day to day, is useful for being someone who works for themselves? Like marketing and budgeting come to mind for me immediately, and networking.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this answers the last question as well as this one. Mm-hmm. I was caught off guard by the difficulty of when you scale. Well, this is what I want to say. When I was doing it as a part-time job while I still had a job, the amount of money I was bringing in wasn't an issue. I was making cash back then largely, and so if I got a little bit through like sent by email transfers that are on the quote unquote on the books, no sweat. Like I made an extra 10% on my income. It's just not a thing. When it became my sole income, and there's money coming in from 5 different payment methods and PayPal, and it's in different currencies, and now there's exponentially more expenses related to the business. I got behind. I got about $30,000 behind, and now we're caught up. Everything is lovely. Yeah. But there was a minute where I was like, "What is going on? I can't stay on top of this." The amount of money I was needing to put aside, it was just impossible to stay on top of.
Yeah, and I think that's very common.
I think a lot of people experience that. In the
I've seen a lot of even like personal like blogging websites where they're like, third person hired was an accountant, basically.
Yeah. And now we have a great accountant. That's a big part of it, and he really helped get us straight. We were already well on the way, but he kind of took us over the goal line. And yeah, that's a big part of it, is being ready to take that stuff super seriously.
Yeah.
Just like you have to have a day where you wake up and you eat a big breakfast and you go, clear off the table. I'm piling receipts and I'm organizing, and I'm going to wrap my head around the finances of the business. And by the way, you're going to have to do that again in 11 months from now. It's constant. It's a constant
I still feel
thing.
like a baby woman when it comes to stuff like that. Like, I still don't understand
I don't mind taking it,
at all. Like, I feel
We're
like
partners.
a little
I don't mind
child.
It's nice to have a partner because you can balance skills.
He definitely helps a lot. I'm really good at keeping receipts. I understand that.
Whoa, you are not good at keeping receipts.
No, I am.
Let's talk about that for a moment.
Fight.
Because I was going to bring this up with you, and then you just said it on the podcast, so that's fun.
Yeah.
You're not good at keeping receipts. I find receipts all the time on the floor under things, and you take them out of your pockets in handfuls like this.
I guess I'm good at keeping them in the sense that like
No,
I don't throw them away.
For sure you lose them, because I found one in here like under the hamper or something, and it was like $18. And so I folded it up and put it with the receipts.
Okay, turns out I'm not good at
No, you're not good at keeping receipts.
You're better than me.
But for real, so going forward for you, and this is a lesson for everybody, every day this is a part of our life. Like I got 30K in the hole. We're out of the hole. Barely. It's hard to stay out of the hole when you owe as much taxes as you do here in Canada when you're self-employed. So those receipts are everything. So it's an ongoing part of the year. I'll gladly add up the numbers.
Yeah.
Or you can hire, if you don't have me, you can hire an accountant. But it's so key that you have a discipline. You get it, fold it in half, put it in your receipt, and put them in a pile. And then when they have a little pile of them, give them to me, and we'll put them in the little pile of receipts.
You're right.
Because that way, at the end of the year, we'll be $600 or $200 ahead of where we would have been had you not been that disciplined. And I think that's a big part of you. You could be as silly as you want to be, but not when it comes to that stuff, because you'll get buried quickly and have to go get a day job again.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you know a lot about that stuff and like what you can claim and stuff as being like a self-employed person, or will that kind of be like a learning experience?
I don't myself, but my father was self-employed for most of my life.
Okay, cool.
And I have a couple of friends.
Because there was a lot of cool stuff that I learned about that I had no idea. Like, for example, like we buy like garbage tags or whatever to bring out our garbage, and it's like that's included in stuff that we can claim because it's for the business. You know what I mean? It's like our work garbage is also our...
Yeah. Now, isn't there a threshold of like money you need to make from your business before you have to actually claim it as a business?
Yes, we're well over that. It's not very high.
Oh, is it? Okay. I can look that up.
I think it's like $15,000 or something like that.
Okay.
Maybe it's 11, maybe it's 20, but it's something like that.
So I've been doing side projects for a couple of years, and it hasn't gotten to that yet. But that's something I'm also starting into this halfway through the year. So probably.
And honestly, there's like, don't take it as any. Maybe we're nowhere near that weight there yet. But when you're working full time at it, if you're working 40 hours a week year round at it, you'll be at that number by sheer math, So if you're still getting into it, obviously that's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Because that's how it was for me. I was way under that, and then I was working at it every day. And when you work at anything every day, you start making like money at all that effort, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So kind of similar question and approaching it from a different way. If we were to build the perfect entrepreneur, self-employed person, what skills would that person have compared to somebody who sucks and needs to get a day job?
Ooh.
Self-awareness is one thing that we always talk about.
Yeah.
In what way?
Like they need to be self-aware at their own skills and also of self-aware of, do you know what I mean? Like,
I know exactly what you mean.
We talk about that a lot because often we see people who post like, oh, I'm doing this or whatever. And we just know that it's like, oh yeah, we'll give that like a month or whatever. Because it's like, we know that they're not, that thing that they're saying that they're going to do is actually pretty hard and takes a lot of time.
Yes.
So it's like, and you need to be self-aware enough to know that this is my goal that I have. And this is how much time and effort it's going to take to get to that goal. Am I willing to put that in? Mm-hmm. So I think that's like step one. You know what I mean? Like that's like the very bare minimum.
Yeah. I think self-awareness is probably the most important skill. You need to know your strengths and weaknesses because you're going to sell yourself 100 times. So you need to go on your strengths and fill those weaknesses best you can. You know what I mean? Separately, you need to be super aware of, how difficult that thing is. You nailed it, because when somebody says, somebody once approached me to be my manager and they said, I've never been in this space, but I got all this money from club promoting and so on and so forth. Within 6 months, we'll have you here, here, and here. And I said, you're automatically wrong. That's like, that just tells me you don't understand how difficult that task you just described is. Mm-hmm. It's like saying in 6 months, you'll be presenting an award at the Oscars. Yeah. There's no path you can take that will get you there in 6 months. That told me everything I needed to know. And honestly, we call it like bags of sand, from like 40-Year-Old Virgin, where somebody says something where it's like, you obviously don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that sounds like bags of sand.
The very words you chose tell us that you don't know about this space, and you need to be the opposite of that if you're selling yourself in a space, because those customers are listening for those cues that you aren't very aware of, how much competition there is.
Yeah, they smell it a mile away.
You need to just be overly, you need to be so aware you're casual about it.
Yeah.
That like, listen, I know, I'm sure there was somebody here this week. There's salespeople everywhere. This is why I'm here and why I'm different. If it's a saturated business, or if it's not saturated, why would you ever bring up competition? Because it would be like shooting yourself in the foot, And so you need to be super just aware of the situation. I always use the whiteboard metaphor. It's like, just start writing things down. Write keywords down. Is it saturated or not. Write that down. How many businesses are in your town that are like you? Write that number down. You should know the number. How many businesses are like yours? You know,
who are your competitors?
It's like what are the other options? I think in business school they call them like alternate competitors or whatever, where it's like not direct competition, indirect competitors. That's what they call them. Where for us, music video directors are indirect competition because for less money you could buy a music video. For a cupcake company, the local pie place is indirect competition.
Or Sobeys.
It's not exactly a cupcake, but I mean it's around the same money and it does the same thing for me.
Yeah, or buying a grocery store crappy cupcake.
Yeah, or in your case maybe it's some web-based ad hustler is the person that they're also getting sold by. So you need to be aware of these other. It's just start writing those things down because in the middle of all those pieces of data is a bunch of information about what you should do. You know what I mean? It's like there's a hole there somewhere.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
What was the original question?
Oh, fuck, I don't know.
What are the main things that
if we were building the perfect self-employed person, or what about?
So that was all about self-awareness. That was like 20 minutes on self-awareness.
Well, I mean that's a big point. Is it maybe easier to think about in terms of what skills are like warning flag? Maybe this isn't for you.
No, I say let's stay positive. So, so the other thing
that's your personal brand. I know that.
Well, I just mean we could talk about like
you're
weaknesses.
a positive person, man.
Maybe we'll give one bad one after, but I think mostly what else is important? I think, I mean, anything sales based, anything where you're.
Well, you're from a marketing background, and you sort of are too, Jess.
Oh yeah, we're similar in ways I forget. Whenever you talk about your makeup days, it reminds me that you really got into a lot of. That's what I mean. A lot of different things that you had interests in.
And even at the costume, you were the most marketing focused person we had at the costume shop.
But you need to be strong-willed and have a strong spine.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you need to
fake it well.
Fake it. Yeah.
And I think that's why me and Anthony work well together is because I don't think that I do. But I've also worked in many industries where you have to.
In a way you do.
In a way I do. I think that I come home and cry more than the normal person, but I think that I love the game so much that it's worth it for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know how to do anything else. I know that sounds like so like dramatic and like I'm like a baseball player about to like, but it's just like I really do. And it's just like, I don't know how to do anything else but this. So even though sometimes it's stressful and sometimes it's whatever, it's like I have that drive that I want to do it anyways. You know what I mean? And I think that having that drive is like definitely one of the things.
It's because it's hard.
It's important too. Because it is hard. Yeah.
There's times where, I mean, the reality is when I worked at my day job, I looked at being self-employed, terrified. And I remember thinking like, it was like jumping, but there was nothing you were jumping onto. Mm-hmm. So you'd just be jumping forever. And that is sort of true, in that you're just like, now this is you in this perpetual state of jump.
Yeah.
Wow. Someone write that shit down. Perpetual state of jump.
Yeah.
I might write a book called that.
Yeah. That is what it feels like we're in.
Yeah, it's like
sure.
I remember looking at it being like, there's no way, man. There's just no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. Until I was so unhappy that the no way still was worth trying.
And there is still some scary things about it. Like for me, it's still very new and like for example, like benefits and like things like something came up recently where I was like, oh, I don't have healthcare to pay for that. All right, well, I have healthcare, but I don't have benefits to pay for that medication or whatever it would be. So there's stuff like that that's still weird. And even like unemployment, it's just like now that we've been self-employed for so long, you can't just get unemployment if something goes wrong. That's not the way it works. You need to be like, right? That's not the way it works.
Yeah, no, it's not. But I just feel like if all else failed,
You'll move into my house. And
Even
I'll take care of you.
Well, that, if all else fails that far, sure. But I mean, if all else fails, like let's say the lyric video business tanks, and there's no immediate pivot business, through just a little bit of hard work at Charm, we'll make more money than unemployment in some business.
Then that's another thing too, is that having not even necessarily a backup plan, but just knowing that if it doesn't work, I could easily do this.
Yeah, well, the skills are transferable.
Yeah. Even me with like the promo stuff that I do where I work for like different companies, like I'll work for freaking Play-Doh and
you haven't done that in a while, but yeah, last summer you did.
But it is something where I know people in the industry and it's just like I could easily be like, oh hey, or even applying for like some kind of like cosmetic job. It's like I know that I always have that I have the skills.
Well, didn't Shoppers want to hire you a couple of months ago?
Oh yeah, the one near us. Yeah, they were like, please
come work for us.
Yeah, so it's like I know that I have those options to do. It's like I'm not completely screwed.
This
if
is
for
so
some reason I
uninspiring.
have to go.
You're giving a monologue about how you should have a a backup day job.
No, but I'm just saying, like,
but know your worth, you know?
yeah. And also if you're, I think that's a part about being self-aware. It's like if you're going into it blindly and just being like, I'm going to do it, then you might be setting yourself up to fail, because it's like, you need to be realistic, and you need to know that this is what I'm going to do to try my hardest. If it doesn't work, I could do this for another month.
100%.
And then once I'm done doing that, I can come back and try approaching it from a different angle. That's all I mean.
You can always find another job you don't love.
Follow your dream. I just mean that know your worth, have a backup in case it doesn't work right away.
Well, there's a career columnist I really love. Shout outs to Liz Ryan, because I've been following her for a long time. But she talks about how consulting is not that different. It's like we all are consultants. We just work for one position, and we don't necessarily know our value or how much per hour we're worth, but we could calculate it. But she suggests that the future of work is that we'll all eventually be consultants, all knowing our worth and like consulting on that basis. What are your thoughts on that?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty ambitious in the sense that
not everyone's cut out for it.
Yeah, and I think there is a not to sound elitist, but there's a big enough percentage of like unskilled workers that I think are just going to remain that. And that percentage might change a little bit, but it's not going to cut in half.
Well, it's personality based too. I mean, my husband is a software developer, and he's
very different.
Amazing at what he does, makes lots of money, but he's meant to work for a company. That's what he likes, the stability.
But so that industry, for example, I think it'll be industry based. That industry one day might entirely become consultant based, and even someone like Andrew will just be used to that, and he'll just consult somewhere for a long time because that's his personality. And certainly anything creative will become that way. But I think there's a lot of jobs that unfortunately will go the other way, which is way more depressing, which is like temp agency, because that's where most Western countries are trending towards temp agency away from full-time employment. It just benefits the employer and is horrible for the employee.
Was it England that you said that was
England
like that?
is like 70% that. America and Canada have gone up like 10% in the last 10 years. It's when companies are willing to take the PR hit, because they take a PR hit when they go that way, they make more money. It's more profitable to be that way. They get rid of benefits, they get rid of all these things.
And eventually, if everyone's doing it, there will be no PR hit.
That's why that's eventually they hit a critical mass where right now in the UK. And then what happens in the UK is countries sign contracts with a company that says they're not allowed to hire outside. So even if you get headhunted at the top, then they send you down to their temp agency for a meeting, and then they run you through the temp agency anyways. It's just like, so I worked in the UK in a very high position, and they still basically reversed and said like, hey, we have to go through our temp agency because we have a contract. We're not allowed to hire without going through them. So it's taken hold over the employment there, and people are really unhappy.
So you're saying that could be more the future that you would see rather than
for the unskilled workers,
depending on the industry. Yeah.
So if we're talking about the people who are, let's say they call them, these are the people who work at factories, let's say cleaning the robots who actually build things in 10 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These people will be hired through temp agencies with no benefits. And then the software developers will all be contract people for short contracts based on exactly what they're needing.
Well, it sounds like benefits are going to need to get reworked anyway if we're all working contract.
Yeah.
But that's
hopefully by then, and I'm a big believer in this, we can't really get into it heavy, is I'm a big believer in universal basic income. So and there's more and more talk about it in like legit politics. So that could also be happening in this potential future.
Future's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. But that's a talk for another day. Let's keep talking business.
All right. What else I got for you guys? Any big lesson situation or stories where things maybe didn't go quite the way that you wanted to, but you learned enough about it that it was almost worth it? Or have you guys been playing your cards really well? And
I guess just to touch on something that we're kind of going through recently is that you need to give a time for sales to come through, because just because you do a heavy sales day today doesn't mean tomorrow you'll have sold all that stuff. It's like you need to kind of plan your sales days almost like a month or two in advance. You know what I mean?
So we build time management into that perfect being.
Yeah, the rhythm totally. Of the inventory and the sales and the income and then the servicing and then coming back to the top of the thing again. You have to know that rhythm and be on top of it.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah, totally.
Do you know what lesson I learned way earlier? It's not exactly what you're asking, but I think it's a good talk point. Is early on, the thing that was hardest for me to do when I was coming up from the $100 guy to the $200 guy to eventually having a whole little online creative business was deposits. I remember I didn't have the nerve to ask for them because it's like, give me $200 or I can't put your name in my calendar. it's hard to say that to somebody when you've never said that before. Now we say it every day, and it's not even a thing. I don't think anything about it. I send it while I'm watching the new Tupac and Biggie show.
It's got to be about clout too.
But it's also just about that's what everybody does.
Yeah.
So once you start playing I'm in this game with all these pros. That's what everybody does. But when you're jumping off the ground at first, you're not in the game. So you feel weird saying, "Hey, will you pay me to shoot me? Will you pay me for me to film you?" Yes. Okay, well, give me half the money now, or I won't put your name down on the counter.
What helps me with that is that almost everything is like that. The only exception would be like eating at a restaurant, you pay at the end or whatever. But everything else is like that. You give money to go see a movie, and then you get to see the movie.
Yes.
You don't watch the movie first and then pay afterwards. You know what I mean? So I kind of always think of it like that, where it's just like we're only in our specific case, we ask for 50% deposit or whatever, and then we get the rest of the 50 once we're done the work, which I think is very fair because we could ask for 100%. I don't even think that would be so unreasonable. But I think that the way we do it is perfect. But you know what I mean?
No,
like
100%.
It's like when you look at the purchasing as like how we do it, it's like it makes total sense to pay before you get the thing, you know?
No, I totally agree. Yeah. And I think the takeaway for me was it was like jumping again when my friends that were photographers and stuff were just like, because I got screwed a couple times. And I booked like a studio space, and the guy doesn't give a deposit, and then I got screwed by it or whatever. And my photographer friends was just like, "You just need to cross the line when you no longer take anything without a deposit. I'm sorry, I can't." It's almost like it's gravity. I can't.
Yeah.
I cannot do it unless there's a deposit in. I'm sorry. And at first it felt weird. Like you feel like you're like lying. You know what I mean? And then, but after a while, you've never done it. You've never put a name in without a deposit, so you don't.
And the subtext is, I won't do it if you're your own boss.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that also comes with the confidence of having so many portfolio pieces to show as well, that we're like, all these clients, we didn't screw over and run away with their money. You feel free to ask
and
any
they paid 50%.
You know what I mean? And they paid the 50%. That's just the way that
everybody
we do it,
else did it. So it's okay.
Why are you being difficult?
So we.
Whereas
there
in the beginning, it is a little bit more intimidating because it's just like, well, I could run away with your money, I guess. You wouldn't know whether I would or not. You know what I mean? Like,
but it's interesting because I think because not everybody was doing a creative, there won't always be a 50-50 situation. But I think the cool talk point that even maybe we could discuss isn't it interesting that in the beginning it felt weird to ask for 50% up front, and now if someone said to you to do it, you would LOL at them.
Yeah,
like that. It's ridiculous.
Like it's a physical wall now. Like it's a physical wall we can't go through. We've never done it. It's been 3 years. We've never done that thing. Yeah. So it's like
anyone who asks that, which is very rare that ever happens, wouldn't. But if somebody asks that, like, I want to see something before I give you anything, we're just like, oh, then we're not the person.
Jess calls me in to look. She's like, oh look, somebody thinks we'll do it for free.
Yeah. And have you guys asked for deposits from the beginning? Pretty much.
Right from the first video
with Lyric.
And do you recommend that as a general thing for anyone content producing?
For content producing for sure. I think you need to know if you're a business if that's even possible. But I think the idea is to create a payment structure and a system where you're somewhat protected and where the power is in your hands, the ball is in your court. Because in our case, and again, this is different for everybody, but they pay us 50%. So now we've got the power somewhat in that we're holding some of their money. So we do the work. At a certain point, we cross a threshold where we've done more work than they paid us for, but we still have the money and they have nothing, so we still sort of have the power. You know what I mean? And then we send them a draft of the video for their notes. And I love it. Okay, now I want it. So they send us the rest of the payment. We send them the video.
Now, what is the draft for your industry? Like,
we just watermark it.
Oh, okay, cool.
But if someone else is doing something else, marketing strategies or anything else, I think the takeaway is you set up the structure of the contract in a way that you're protected somewhat.
Yeah.
So that they can never get too far out in front of you where they go, I don't know if I'm into this.
And I think it really does depend on the industry too, because let's use the cupcake place as an example. Let's say the cupcake place hired you to do some promo for them. Yeah. That's a physical retail location that I know where you live, but you know what I mean? Kinda.
Right. No, you're right.
It's just like, whereas we're dealing with people online, we might never meet them in real life. Generally, we don't meet them in real life.
But there might be a cupcake company who delivers now.
Okay, well, let's say it was
so many preservatives,
a store and on a main street or whatever. I would feel way more confident being like, I'll send you an invoice and you could pay that invoice.
Yes.
With a company like that, where it's just like they have a physical store that I could go in and be like, "Where's my money?"
No, you're right.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And we do that. We do that with big record labels. We work on we agree on a rate.
Yeah.
They send, and then we send them an invoice, and they pay us after because it's a big company and they've got a.
Yeah, we do that with.
But I mean, when it's Sony, like we did it with Sony.
Yeah,
it's like, well, but they're not going to go anywhere, and it's not in their interest just to not pay their invoices. And of cource, that was not a problem. So you got to
make exceptions for Sony.
You got, you need to be
a giant.
I just mean. When you talked about what should you think about going into business for yourself, I know early on I didn't think about, well, I better set up the methods of payment and the timings of the payments so that I'm always protected. No, that came later. I think when we first started doing it, I was like, oh, so we should definitely. It's like a trial and error
thing.
This is when we should send them this, and then even when we got into the sales aspect, it was like, well, we need you to fix your lyrics. Well, we started telling them that early. And then what happens is we never get the deposit because it takes them a month to fix their lyrics. So what we do, they give us the deposit. Now we say, fix your lyrics. Well, now they're going to do it quickly because we've got their money.
Yeah.
So it's just little things like that of knowing when to ask for what information or when do you ask from them for the contract, before or after the meeting, or you just, which one is it going to provide a barrier to the meeting? In which case, ask for the contract after. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's an NDA, well, what point is that going to be the least problematic in the process of selling to people or whatever the case is,
Yeah, and if I was to look at our little man/woman that we've built, our little entrepreneur, and what skills they have, I feel like discomfort with knowing everything off the bat and being willing to make mistakes and to learn from them would be a key
flexible
thing.
On your feet.
Yeah,
and also just like none of this, Rome's not built in a day. We're not going to figure, there's not like a whole, you can't make a business plan and expect that it's going to launch into a perfect thing.
Yep, and also that every client's different.
Yes.
And every situation's different and you're going to have to adjust.
And lessons are expensive sometimes, and that's life.
No industry is so empty that the minute you get into it, people scream and run into your door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, it's not 1822. You're the first cupcake place ever, and word gets out immediately. Holy shit! Have you heard about this village
Unless
next
you're
door?
in Bitcoin, then maybe.
Yeah, exactly. That's why sometimes apps or whatever will be the thing. But for everybody else, you got to realize you're going into a space that is somewhat full. These people are getting their treats elsewhere.
Yeah.
They're eating something now elsewhere. Or if you're an artist, their playlist is full of songs by somebody else.
Yeah.
So you're always working up current. You're always trying to penetrate a thing that is all up, a club that's already full. So somebody has to get out for you to get in. You know what I mean? And so I think when you think of things that way, you're not going to be so presumptuous that like, I'll put up a yellow sign and everybody will run in my door. No, they're eating at the place down the street. You need to get them out of that place and in your place. And so that's where you start to get really ruthless about marketing. That's where you have to get really
down to earth. Yeah.
Yeah. And just like, how do we interact with these people? What are the access points? That's why social media and ads are great, is you can find the right people and interact with them at the perfect right time. Maybe before a YouTube video about cupcake recipes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or on the hashtag I love cupcakes or whatever the case is,
Yeah. And it really is like, it depends on the company of what style of marketing works for them. I want to tell a little story. I got into an argument with a friend recently because he added us to Instagram. I don't know if I told you this. He added us to Instagram, and an auto message, like he added lyric vids, and an auto message sent back to him that said, hey, thanks for adding us. If you're an artist, we produce lyric videos or whatever. Let us know if you're ever in need. It's like a very low commitment or whatever.
Yeah.
But he found that really gross. He was like, well, I'm not even an artist. He actually didn't realize it was me at first. He just basically was like, whatever company this is, you guys are gross. I'm like, hey, it's Jess. And he was like, oh, sorry. But it was funny because we had a little bit of a debate about it. And I was like, well, in our experience, you're like the 0.1% that has ever given a negative response, because we're targeting with our hashtags and stuff. We're targeting, new music today in the studio. It's always, our success with hitting artists rather than just regular everyday people who don't make any music at all is pretty good.
Yeah.
So he happened to be one because he added us from mutual friends or whatever, that he wasn't an artist or whatever, and he found that annoying. But anyways, my point is for this whole thing is that type of marketing may be annoying if that is something that the person who you're sending it to doesn't value, and that, you know what I mean? You're constantly sending out these spammy messages that like you get like maybe 1% or even interested. You know what I mean? Like I could get how people would be annoyed with that type of spam, but I was like, I basically told this friend, I was like, this is where we get most of our sales is from sending these annoying messages. For those of you just listening, I'm doing bunny ears, quote unquote, because I think that for the most part, people don't find them to be annoying messages. They're like, oh, cool, thanks, I'll check it out. You know what I mean? At the worst, they ignore it and don't answer it. You're but like mostly people are like, hey, cool, thanks.
And I've noticed people have structured their like auto emails to do the same thing. You sign up for a site and they're like, hey, here's some interesting like other pieces we've written. It starts off like that, and then it's like, hey, interspersed in that is like, here's this course we're offering.
We try to give as much added value as we can.
And now if you're really protesting technology, you might even find that example annoying too. You might be like, oh, just because I came to your website doesn't mean I want to see a message from
all your stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just like that, unfortunately, is the direction that we're going, is simplifying it. You know what I mean? Making it easy.
Some people never want to be sold to. Some people love it.
Are ready. Yeah.
Some people are like, show me the cool stuff in the world. And I'm sorry, if you're at the bottom half, you're going to get sold to more than you'd like. It's just how spectrums work.
And I think that is another important lesson to learn when you're an entrepreneur, is that you just have to not care about that. You just have to keep going. You know what I mean?
No sweat.
And not care at all, because you want to send messages that are...
You want feedback,
Yeah, you want feedback. And if everyone's saying it's annoying, of course, you'd be like, maybe I'm doing this wrong.
But once again, self-aware, because there's a big difference between, we have two cranky people because we rubbed them the wrong way, or is this a trend that people are not appreciating our marketing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And we know, like I've adjusted things subtly because we've gotten little bits of negative feedback. So it's like, okay, I could do this differently to get around that. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And sometimes it's just that they don't understand the message. It's mostly that versus like they're mad at it. So if they don't understand it, how can I word things differently so it's super clear? Again, the line being so they can see it from space. I don't want, and when they read it, they should be even just going like this. Oh, I got a message from, cool, lyric video company wants to make me lyric videos. It should be like that.
Yeah.
Not like, huh? Wait, who? What's this?
Yeah, what do they want?
What's that about? It's like, it's barriers to entry, right? You want it to be super duper ease.
Yeah, totally.
Lyricviz.com, the web's #1 lyric video animated company.
Well, you guys are awesome. Those are my basic questions. Is there anything that I've missed that you think is good advice for someone starting off, or that you want to talk about that I didn't hit on?
Well, first of all, how far in are we? Do we know?
I don't know. Do you want to check?
Let me look quickly. To see. Oh, no, I think we should go for like another 20 minutes.
Okay, cool.
All right. I can probably...
Well, even if you have more questions, go. If you don't, we can just talk about these concepts
okay.
overall.
What's the... I mean, I feel like some of these, we hit a lot of them on the way, so I didn't particularly hit on them. Let me see.
I would have some of you read, but it's way too strong.
No, this is the light stuff.
Oh, this is the light.
Yeah, this is the light $5 per grab stuff. Actually, the other stuff that I got from buds2go.ca. I got Blue Dream, which was the first joint, and it was usually $10 a gram.
Shout out to...
But because we was legalized, they ran a 50% off sale and I bought it for $5 a gram. For Blue Dream is a very good price. So if you're a weed smoker in Canada, I recommend buds2go.ca. I have a link actually where if you buy weed, they give me a percentage of the money that they make from you. So if you smoke weed and you listen to the podcast, hit me up and I'll give you the link. Buds2go.ca, unofficial sponsor.
This is a more niche area that I didn't know if we would get into, but setting up a company, is there a lot involved in that?
Well, so we've done minimal. We set up, we have an HST number
but just for LyricsVid.
No, it's for...
Or for general.
So yeah, it's for Jessica and Anthony.
Oh, very nice.
It's for all of our businesses that fall underneath that. So if I make money from IllVibe or whatever money comes in, it's under our business. So HST, that's just kind of here in Canada in any case. It's kind of when you make more than a certain amount of money, you kind of have to do it. Mm-hmm. It's not a big deal. We just pass on the HST that our clients pay directly to the government. So that was kind of a big step when we took it, because it was just an extra layer of like, well, we need to also be charging taxes. So we're always calculating what the taxes are. And then, of course, passing it, managing it and passing it on. So I think that's a big piece.
And even though you have different quote companies, that filters over all the things.
We've kept it very simple.
Yeah.
Because for a long time it was me, and then LyricVids was small, and now LyricVids is bigger than my music income. It's like, who knows what other things will come from it. She shoots weddings. The easy thing is to be like, we are this like creative hub, and everything we make, music, video, graphic, or otherwise, is under that one thing. We've talked about incorporating. That will probably happen in the next year, just for tax reasons. I think we can save a little bit of money.
Yeah.
But that's really, I think, the only missing step for us.
And do you think there would be any advantage to just setting up an overall portfolio, or do you have one already about all the sort of different things you touch on?
Not really. I think it's the Lyric Vids thing. The power of it is that
It's
our
very
name
specific.
isn't on it. It's they're the that thing, you know.
That being said, if you go to our Lyric Vids YouTube channel, there is different like playlists of different services we offer. So you shoot, we edit, we do where people send us footage of theirs and we edit it. So we have like a folder of like a few examples of that. So I think we kind of like subtly advertise for it without including it right on the main website where because it would just kind of complicate things.
We've tried several times to launch those services and people are just less responsive. There's something we've hit a nerve with the name of the business. It's a thing that they want, and there's like there's a long list of reasons it works, because in our case, lyric videos work because a lot of artists are neurotic and don't want to appear on camera. And so it happens to service that need, which I didn't realize until we were already servicing.
Let's bring it back to generally. We talked about trying to keep it more general rather than like lyric vids.
Okay, well, what about you talked about how you used Instagram. How do you use the other social media platforms very differently, and in what ways?
For sure.
I noticed you're not on LinkedIn.
No, we're not.
Yeah, no, we're not.
I mean, I guess that makes sense for the music side of it. But.
Yeah, because Instagram is very like, it's our portfolio.
Yeah.
We try to manage it like you can go there and look at everything that we do, all our examples. And
our Facebook, I feel like legitimizes us like a little bit. Like if somebody's on Facebook,
the same content in terms of like videos.
Yeah, I think it's just...
Is it less audience?
They're used differently, right?
Yeah, they are used differently.
Facebook's a little bit like your website. They go there to be like...
That's what I mean by legitimizing it, because our views or whatever, or our likes aren't very high on Facebook, whereas on Instagram, they are very high. So it's like, I feel like our Facebook is just more so, if they're also on Facebook and they happen to look us up there, they'll also find a lot of content there to show that we're a real company working with real people. And,
You're right.
And we tag all the people that we work with on Facebook and stuff too, so it shows
Instagram for outreach. They probably look us up on Facebook. The way that works.
And Twitter.
We use Twitter because it'd be silly to not have it, but we don't really focus on it.
Yeah.
It's just not these days. That's not where the crowd is if you're trying to reach people.
One thing that's cool that you can do with Twitter, this works specifically with video stuff, but I'm sure it could change over to other companies as well. Cupcakes. You can literally search like what people have tweeted in that past like few months or whatever. So if somebody says, "Hey, who makes cupcakes? Do you guys have any cupcake recommendations or things like that?" You can actually find people's tweets of that, and then you can either reply to their tweets, or you can go to their profiles. A lot of people have their emails right in their profile. You can send them an email and say, "Hey, I saw your tweet. Just so you know, this is what we do." I used to do that way more with Lyric Vids. I don't do it as much anymore.
We should do it again soon, just to like, we haven't done it in a while.
I wouldn't say that it's like our main thing,
example,
but it is definitely one of the ways.
Who makes lyric videos? For the first time we did it, it was like, we struck gold.
Yeah.
There's like this drummer from this band just tweeted yesterday, "Who makes lyric videos?" We're like, we do. Yeah, exactly.
But I find that now it's buried because lyric videos are so much more popular that I find lyric videos from The Who or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to find people actually wording it like...
You can put it in quotes, but the problem is it's just not... Twitter's not used that way as much as it used to be.
Exactly, it's not really used for that
Probably
as much.
people are asking that question on their Facebook, which you can't search in that way.
Yeah.
And Instagram is... It's like Facebook and Instagram took a lot of what Twitter was. And Twitter very much still has a place, but more as, I find, communication between big entities. So Lyric Vids, for example, I reached out to Static Selecta, who's a famous producer, and we offered to produce a lyric video in exchange for some promotion with him. And that's how we use Twitter. We use Twitter to reach other big kind of like entities that otherwise are tough to reach, because they're not super reachable by Twitter, but they'll read your tweet whether they reply or not. So it's
so would you say that somebody big is more likely to read your tweet from Twitter than your Instagram comment?
Instagram comment, I just think, is a little bit more buried. It's not set up in as... It's not as big on the screen.
Also, it'd be weird to say on Instagram, like, "Hey, we offer this," and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
but I also feel like Instagram is the most work in terms of that's the one that people really want to back and forth on compared to other.
It needs to be real. You need to be like existing there.
Yeah, like living there like 11:30 at night, like on your phone.
Yeah.
One thing that honestly that I do is like when I'm on the toilet,
You're on Twitter.
No, because Gary Vee put me onto the idea that the more outgoing interactions you have, the more potential return interactions you have. So, for example, for lyricvids.com, I'll serve the hashtag songwriter, which is used exclusively by songwriters, it turns out.
Imagine that.
And I'll just go through and like until Instagram makes me stop liking, because you can only do 100 in a row before it stops you. And then, I wipe my phone down. Everybody always says that when I tell them this tip. But it's just well, listen, I'm a grown man, so once a day I'm on the toilet for 10 minutes and I send out 100 interactions. And honestly, the next day, the little weekly interactions jumps by 60.
Oh, yeah.
Because a bunch of those people go, Lyric Vid, who's this guy?
Totally.
And then our week jumps up 8 followers or whatever. And since I've made a habit of doing that, it's one of the many funny little good habits that I have.
So really, if you spent more time in the bathroom, it would just be better for business.
Yeah, that's right. So I had curry for dinner for that exact reason. No, but the point is, I do that a lot. When Jess puts on a show I don't like, I pull up my phone out and I go, I'm going to comment on 20 people who used hashtag new album coming or something like that. And I comment on it, say, good luck with the release. Keep it super chill, not very salesy. And then a bunch of them are like, thanks. And then they follow you. And then now I'm in their universe. And then,
I just thought of another question that was important that I didn't think to ask. One of the major things I heard about getting into being employed for yourself is setting boundaries. If you're not good at deciding, when does work stop and start? If you're sitting on the couch and you're like, I'll do some tweeting. You have the freedom to decide when work stops and starts, but
I'm not the person to ask this.
Can you decide when it stops?
So I would say that that's a conflict that me and Anthony have a little bit because he definitely has a more blurred line, whereas I do like to, work during certain hours and then I like to turn off during other hours. And often it's also because I'm more emotional with it. I do get, for example, if we get a email from a client late at night being like, oh my gosh, I found one error. Can you guys please fix this before tomorrow? He can check that and easily be like, well, I can't fix it right now, so I'll just deal with it in the morning. If I check that, it'll ruin my night because I'll be like, oh, they're gonna be wanting it really early in the morning, and then I'll have to rush tomorrow morning to do it. I can't turn off my brain in that sense. If I see that email, I'll get stressed out about it. And to be honest, that's an extreme example. Even less or so. If I just get an email with a question, I almost can't not answer it if I see it. Whereas he'll check it and be like, oh yeah, cool, they said that, I'll answer that. It's not urgent, so I'll answer it tomorrow. To me, it's even if it's not urgent, it stresses me out a little bit. So I personally have to make barriers with as far as this is work time and this is relaxed time. Whereas Anthony is a little bit more blurred.
Here's my problem. I've been trained that if I go ridiculously overtime at things, I can speed the process up. I just learned that from other things I did in my life. And so when I'm sitting around, if I'm not having a lot of fun doing something, sometimes I go, I know how to use an hour to move the ball forward. You know what I mean? And so
it is a real
to a problematic point that I get out of the shower and I should just be relaxing. And I go, well, I happen to know a way to get our Instagram a notch up where it needs to be, or whatever the case might be.
It really is a bittersweet thing. I think you could relax a little more and not be as much of a workaholic, but at the same time, his workaholicness has been what has made us successful because he'll get an idea to do something at 9 o'clock at night, and then he can't relax until he just does the thing.
And then there's been, I can't think of any really specific examples right now, but there's been a couple of times where, late at night, I suddenly have an idea. Here's one I had when I was shooting music videos. I had this idea that probably at 10 o'clock at night, I could rent a car for a weekend, drive to a city that's really far away, 4 or 5 hours away, Ottawa or whatever, stay for 3 days and drive home for $250.
Yeah.
And if I sold 4 music videos in that time, or 3 music videos
in that city,
I could make $1,800 minus $250. So I remember that night I made a poster. It was Illy comes to your town, and I sold one in Guelph, London, Ottawa. It's just. It's just I had an idea.
I can give
I need to strike right now. I just thought, I'm oh, that's cool. And then I'm up all night till 3 in the morning. I post the poster, and then I wake up in the morning and there's 108 likes on the poster, and all these people from various towns are
I'm going on a world tour.
We would bring this to our town. You know what I mean? It was just I just get excited about a business idea or a marketing idea. And then it's Jess will see me get up. I grab the laptop and she's like, what's up? I'm like, I have an idea.
And then I'll play video games.
Jess plays video games. Right.
So a more recent example of something like that you did was Instagram released, basically they're doing kind of a YouTube platform.
IGTV,
where they're actually streaming full like
up
videos.
Up to 10 minutes, I think.
Yeah. So instead of being live streams that are shown,
it's like YouTube built into
Instagram. It's like YouTube. Yeah, exactly. So we saw this at like 9 o'clock at night. And so he edited a bunch of his, because it's vertical. The screens are vertical. So he, instead of switching the screen sideways, he edited a bunch so that they made sense vertical, so moving all the things to the middle of the screen so that they make sense in that format. And he did that from like 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock, and there's like, there we go, I'm the first one. And probably in our circle you were the first one.
There was 2 people on my timeline that had it before me. I'm like, this is really cool. I want to get this music video I'm so proud of on there. When everybody gets like updates their app for the first time, I want my thing to be on there. That's a good example. And as soon as I saw that, I was so excited about it. And that's the thing, is I was like lukewarm watching a show with her, and the show was kind of wrapping up or whatever, and I was like lukewarm, and then I saw this, I'm like red hot excited about something. So that's the other thing, is I really enjoy it. Early on, you queued something I wanted to say, and then we got into other stuff, and I never want to like bring it back, but a thing that I did early that ended up being a key part of my success, and I think for young people it's a thing to consider, was I stacked my interests. So early on, I was in love with music, addicted to music. There was no question I was going to make it for the next 20 years of my life. So when I started picking up other hobbies and interests, I prioritized stuff that would move the music stuff forward. You know what I mean? So I got into Photoshop because that was useful. I started learning business skills that were useful for the music thing. And so while I grew these other areas that, to be honest, a lot of people want to talk about, like they're independent, I grew them as like a part A, part B of like moving my initial thing forward. And so I've now stacked all these things I can do, and they become like a snowball. It's useful that I can do motion graphics and Photoshop, and I know a little bit about recording, and I can speak. That's all those things are what you need to do to organize like a big keynote production thing. You know what I mean? It's if I ever wanted to organize a music conference, I know all of the things I would need to do. All the
components,
because I've been stacking these interests, and some of them are fun. Photography's fun. A lot of people learn it, but if you like photography and Fortnite and bowling, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's a more balanced life, and I think people would agree that that's like a really balanced individual. But I think there's worth articulating the idea of having all of these different interests that you can dabble into this and dabble into this, but they kind of come together like a transformer, like Megatron. You know what I mean? Where it's like the sum of its parts is better than when you start to look at all these different things together. I learned to do a cartoon by combining a little bit of learning Illustrator and Photoshop, lyric videos. And I was like, oh, well, a lyric video with a moving guy is kind of a cartoon. So I tried it, and then I made a cartoon. It's like you kind of stack these skills together to be something cool. And well, if I can do cartoons and we do lyric videos, well, then maybe I could do, and then I did my first lyric video cartoon with like a driving car, and the lyrics are coming above the car in the weed smoke. And it's like, oh, cool. Well, if we can do that, then we can, you know what I mean? You start to be able to stack into this bigger and better thing. And, I think if you're the cupcake person, I would try to nerd out on learning how to make videos, because then you can make these cool vlogs about cupcakes.
Get on Instagram
and like watch YouTube tutorials about how to make really cool vlogs, how to be the best vlogger and that's very different than cupcake making, but it's super useful if you have a cupcake store. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I have a friend who has a food blog, and it's actually a really successful food blog. She sells ads for it and stuff, so she makes like, that's her primary income is from this food blog that she does. And I just saw her post like, oh, learning to work with Premiere. I'm like, thank God, because it's like that's just another avenue that she could get into. If she was able to master that skill, she can, you know what I mean, open up so many opportunities.
But on the inverse, I sometimes feel like I'm like on the edge of like, I've got a list of things that I'm going to learn, and I'm like, maybe prioritize or take a step back.
Yes. We talked about that today too.
Prioritize is the right word.
Even the documentary thing. It's just like the reason I'm not doing that right now is because it's like I need to focus and do a few things right now.
You can't do everything at once.
Yeah, I can't do everything.
Things that we would love to do.
And I'd be doing the documentary a disservice to not be able to like have that time to focus on learning to do that really well. Because right now I'm learning like 5 other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you need to learn the things that will benefit you sooner, so they can build you to the other things quicker. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I think
for sure.
Being smart and going,
overload on
which
too many.
like there was a minute where we needed to get your After Effects game up, And then we did. And then you were like, amazing. And then it's like, well, now we need to get you a little bit faster. So you need to know your shortcomings to improve yourself like a champion.
Yeah,
you know what I
sure.
mean? Like I was really abrasive with customers as a music video director. As lyric vids, I've been way better.
Yeah.
I occasionally will be a little bit
Well, you're the bad cop.
bitey
He's
in
the bad
response.
cop, for sure.
But I've been way, way better. And I was very aware that I'm like, I'm doing my business a disservice by always having an attitude with my clients.
But for sure, I mean, like Premiere has been definitely one on my radar that I'm like, I should learn that. But is
useful.
PHP, as somebody who does WordPress, I'm like, is that more useful? Probably. I'll probably do that first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So.
But if you ever do want to learn Premiere, I can teach you. It's very
I'm so
Adobe
down.
has some really cool website building software
know.
too.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know anything about it. I know it's in our suite, but I
know
don't know much about it.
it interferes a lot. Like it tries to help too much sometimes for me
Okay.
because anyway.
Wow, you're too good at it.
I guess I'm just too good.
Oh wow, I didn't know who I was dealing with.
How do you guys find workflow? As somebody who I've been transitioning out of full time, which means I've been using up my vacation, taking a lot of days off, and I've been very surprised to find that as much as I'm not a morning person, in the morning I'm like 2 hours in the morning is worth half an hour at night, or vice versa.
I know exactly
It's
what
worth
you
like
mean.
4 hours at night.
Yeah.
What do you guys find that your workflow is?
Well, both of us do. When we get up, that's when we're at our best.
Yeah.
Like, say you get up later than me, but you get up and she's first thing she does is sit on the computer and like within the first 3 hours of your day, you're like murking some project.
Totally. I think we kind of even out because I'm intermittent fasting. So for those of you listening who don't know what that is basically people do it different times a day, but I skip breakfast and lunch. So I only eat essentially dinner, which has actually helped a lot because he'll get up way earlier than me, but he'll also take a few more breaks throughout the day.
I make breakfast.
Yeah, he
I
makes
smoke
breakfast,
a joint.
he smokes weed, he makes
then
lunch.
I put the laptop up and I'm working like an hour and a half after
Whereas
I get up.
I like roll out of bed, sit at the computer right away and work essentially till dinner time.
Yeah.
I've been doing the same. I don't eat breakfast. I eat lunch. But I'm like, between when I get up at like 7 or 8 to like lunch at 12 or 1, I'm like, that's the best output. And like, I try writing things at night at 9 or 10. And I'm like, this is just a waste of my time. It's not coming. And I sit down at it for 20 minutes the next morning. I'm like, there's the article.
Well, you know what? Maybe for you, the answer will be to prioritize other jobs during those times. Like you can, you can set a minimal expectation for whatever if you're going to do a social presence or whatever you're doing on that side. If this is going to be my minimum, well, I could do that during these hours at night where I'm not at my sharpest for.
You can kind of lay on the couch with the
idea
TV on
creation.
while you're doing some
And
like social
posts.
media stuff. Yeah, exactly.
You know?
I definitely do that as well.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm not up to this, so I'll do this.
Although you seem like you get your big manic ideas late at night where you're like, da, 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 da.
He just doesn't turn off until he goes to
I
sleep.
get them all. I get them at all times, but sometimes at night. Yeah. Sometimes when I'm driving, it's like I'm just like I'm that guy who can't turn my head off, so an idea just pops in.
Yeah.
You know, for better or worse. You know what I love about this podcast? It's probably been 50% useful and 50% so self-serving and useless.
No, I thought it was great. It's been
No, hey,
100% useful.
I
We
love it.
have a unique business, so we tend to go on rants about that.
But you guys have done a lot of different stuff.
For sure.
That's true.
And I hope we did a good job of bringing it back to useful, like, takeaways on some of that stuff. Just about, you know, being focused and being aware and arming yourself with information, map out your business, inform yourself.
But be flexible.
Be an expert at the thing. You know what I mean? Selling is easy when all you're saying is, I love to do this thing and I think I'm good at it and it is worth what I ask to do the thing.
Yeah.
And that's universal, regardless of what cupcake or other business you're in.
Totally. Can I also say that you've done like a great service to like the weed smoking community because you're able to get really high on a podcast while still having
and mentor at the same time.
mentor at the same time.
I don't know if I call that
Exactly.
mentorship, but I definitely
Multitasker.
rambled. I definitely got high and rambled. That's for sure.
No, but I think you are good at that. I think that you're kind of breaking stereotypes as far as like what you can accomplish during the day, you know?
I am really lit, though.
Very true.
That's all I got. You guys got anything else?
No,
I didn't bring my phone in here.
No, that's okay.
So we can't sound hound.
that's okay. Next time you'll have to have me on
Yeah,
again.
No, you're going to come back on for sure.
Yeah.
Next time I'll talk more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you talked, but this time it was more questions. I would like to hear your
which
perspectives
honestly,
more.
I love I love asking questions and I love listening.
You're a good interviewer.
You're one of our
It's
favorite
literally
people
what I went to school
talk
for,
with,
so thank you.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Journalism, man.
I didn't know that. Wow, you're great at
That's
it.
why I got my radio voice.
I got it from my mama. Yeah. So thank you for listening.
Yeah.
This we got our rocks off on the business vibes today. We're gonna link people to the article that you write, and hey, if you're smart, if you write it before we put it out, we could even like link it in the info. I think
Done.
that would be really cool.
Done tomorrow.
So
done yesterday.
Thanks everybody. We love you. We'll see you really soon. We have. I know. Let's do this. I know who our next guest is. Can we say who our next guest is?
Yeah, say it.
Next week we have Andy Hawk.
Oh, yeah.
Who is the A&R who signed me to Fontana.
That's awesome.
When I got my Dilio back in 2015, I think. Let's say 2015. I don't know. And he now works at another big music company, and he's a really cool dude.
Yeah, really cool guy.
He's got 100 rock star stories, and he's like one of my favorite peeps. So he's coming over, and after that, we have some other cool guests coming up too that we've been talking to. So I'm excited. Love y'all.
All right.